Hello, everybody. Welcome to Constellation, aka a slice of gaming. We are going to be having a fun discussion, a big spoiler cast roundup for Starfield, one of the biggest games of the year, one of the most anticipated games of the year, Microsoft's biggest game of the year. Very big launch, a lot of people playing the game, including this cast that we have here today, including myself as well. A lot of fun stuff. Hopefully, we're going to get some fun discussions, fun thoughts going around the panel. But I think we should all start with some introductions. I'm your host. I'm the Uncharted Wolf, and I want to jump into our other co-hosts. We got Dark,
Hey, how's it going?
Bop,
Hi, I'm here in place of Todd Howard. He couldn't make it today.
I don't know why he never answers my emails,
That's weird.
and Jat.
To infinity and beyond. They said that in the game,
Okay,
right?
okay, Buzz Lightyear. Let's settle down. But yeah, we're gonna have a very fun spoiler discussion. I do want to talk real quick, do some plugging. Check us out. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Rest in Peace, and Audible. Make sure to like us. We're a very brand new podcast. Any type of support will help us out. And then follow us over on Twitter as well. And check out our main podcast, The Slice of Gaming, every Saturday morning. And also our other podcast, The Slice of Anime, bi-weekly on Thursdays. But I think that's about it for introductions. I do want to actually get into Starfield. We have a lot of thoughts on this game, a lot of differing viewpoints. A lot of people really high on it, some people really low. Granted, there's only four of us, so like we'll see where it goes from here. I'm going to ask right off the top, kind of like what's our hour count and our overall like thoughts on the game without putting a score on it just yet. We'll save that till the end, but like just like our surface level thoughts. I'll start with you, Dark.
Like, it's been a hot minute since I played a bit. I have like 60 to 70 hours in it, and I'm pretty positive on the game. This as a whole.
Yeah, so overall pretty high on it.
Yeah.
You did everything in the game. I should have asked that as well. Okay. Bob, what about you?
Yeah, I have about the same, around I think 70-ish hours. I finished it last week actually, just because I've been so busy. I haven't been able to get as much time with this as I wanted to. But yeah, 70 hours. I've beaten the main game. Started New Game Plus. Did all the faction quests. Like looked up like 10 best side quest missions to do and did those. Explored around a decent amount, and I feel like I pretty much did everything like every main thing you could do in like a first playthrough. And yeah, I'm still really high on the game as well. But that's also caveated by understanding like it's very personal for me, and I am well aware that this game has flaws, and that you like I can understand where the criticisms are coming from. I just this game does still speak to me enough to where I can look past a lot of that and still be pretty positive on it. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I spend an obscene amount of money on merch. That's just a coincidence.
Good old $300 Constellation Edition, huh?
Yeah, just that. Yeah, nothing else.
Oh, okay. You know what? We won't get into it. We don't want to expose Bop anymore. Jat, what about you?
Yes, so I spent about, I think about 35, 36 hours into it. And and I think like you also did this where like we paid for that the DLC, right? To just to get it a few days early.
Yeah, early access.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, not my favorite gaming practice, but I still did it anyways. And yeah, it was a fun like I, I found it a fun experience. Just something different from other games I've played. Like I haven't really done any other space exploration games like No Man's Sky, and I also wasn't deep into any other Bethesda games like this one. Like I played a little bit of Skyrim, a little bit of Fallout 4, but this one I felt I, I was deep into. And yeah, overall my experience was good. And I do agree with Bob where there are definitely valid criticisms for this game, and and like I could see where those are coming from.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna give Nancy. I'm extremely low on the game. I was extremely excited for this game, and like as you said, like kind of your experience with Bethesda games. I'm kind of the opposite, where like I am a Bethesda fanboy. I started with Skyrim, played Fallout 3, Fallout 4. I am a Fallout 4 defender. I think that game's awesome, despite being a pretty bad RPG. At the end of the day, the exploration is good, and that's where Starfield fails, in my opinion. I think it is just not a very good Bethesda game, and I just don't think of it as a very good RPG either. And I just don't think there's enough there for me to be satisfied with the overall experience. And I guess Jack kind of brought this up. I mean, like before we move on, Dark Bop, like what are your guys' previous experiences with Bethesda games?
Just about every single one of them, besides like Morrowind. And I'm pretty
Oh,
high
okay,
on.
fake fan.
Look, can you blame me? I can barely go back to Oblivion. I'm also a Fallout 4 defender. I love that game to death.
Yeah,
And
I've played Skyrim and Fallout 4. And I mean, I know this doesn't count, but New Vegas.
okay.
But actually, I mean, it's an interesting point because I've played New Vegas and Outer Worlds, and Outer Worlds specifically will be brought up today as a point of comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
You
for
said
sure.
Outer Worlds is better than New Vegas, bro. I swear.
He that's what he thinks. I can't trust him. It's an interesting point of comparison. We're definitely going to be doing a lot of comparisons to just other RPG makers in general. But I guess I do want to start off kind of like I guess I'll immediately ask right off the bat, how does this stack up to other RPGs? Like, we might as well, while we're on the topic, like other games that came out around the same time. Baldur's Gate 3 was a month before, took the world by storm, and then later that month was Cyberpunk 2.0 and Phantom Liberty. All that. I mean, does Starfield even compare to that? How do we feel those comparisons kind of were unfair in a way to Starfield and what it was trying to do? I guess just to pose as a question to the panel right off the bat.
I'd say so. Like the way that I went into Starfield, maybe just let me think. I kind of viewed it as its own thing. I didn't view it as, oh, this is gonna be like the next Fallout or the next Elder Scrolls or anything. I kind of just thought of it. It's gonna be this own thing that they, something brand new that they wanted to try and see what it is. But overall, I think it holds up fine compared to everything else, as it's just its own thing. Granted, that's subjective, but
I think it is in an interesting spot because like I don't know if I would necessarily say that my favorite RPGs are ones with good exploration. That's not always necessarily true. Because I feel like that's where a lot of discussion's gonna point to today. I feel like both exploration and like story and characters and kind of how it made your own. But at the same time, like when I was playing this game, I did feel like it was my story. I felt in control for the most part of the decisions I was making and what I was doing and how I was making this story my own. And I think that is what makes a good RPG for the most part. And it's just that I think it's good, not great, and that's unfortunate.
See, I kind of like did my own semi comparison, but not with Phantom Liberty or Baldur's Gate. Like when I beat this game, I immediately jumped into New Vegas and played that all the way through for the first time. And I think that game handles choice and consequence 11 times better than Starfield. I feel like so many of the choices in Starfield, in terms of that RPG mechanic, like you were saying, I don't. Yeah, I feel like I'm in control, but I feel like so many of the choices are so binary. There's nothing that feels like I do something in this region and it really affects somewhere else in the world. Granted, that's a lot more difficult to do in a giant sci-fi world versus just the Mojave Wasteland. But I almost feel like that's kind of a weakness of the setting, is that this is 1,000 planets. Like, yeah, sure, my experiences on Earth aren't, or not Earth, I guess, New Atlantis aren't going to affect what's going on in Neon nearly as much. But I also just feel like that is almost a weakness in and of itself of the game. And even if we go into the microcosms of like New Atlantis or Neon, even then, like I don't think a lot of what I did on Neon and affected on Neon affected the rest of that planet. Because it one of the things is just those essential NPCs that Bethesda loves, where you cannot kill any NPC that they deem too important. And it's always that frustrating thing where like there was this guy who's this king of neon, like, yeah, I'm the kingpin of neon, and I'm like, I fucking hate this guy. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna try to deal with him. And the game just doesn't let you. It doesn't let you forge that path, that new crazy thing where, okay, we accounted for that and we created a different path for these quest lines to account for you killing this one essential NPC. Obviously, maybe I'm asking too much out of the game, but I feel like they could have really shortened the scope of this game, avoid the 1,000 planets thing that I don't feel like anyone's really that excited to explore 1,000 planets, and instead really hunker down and focus in on like these planets that house Neon and New Atlantis, and like really delve deep into like kind of the sci-fi political culture of those planets.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree.
Oh.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Jet.
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say, like, just to answer the original question about, like, I guess how it stacks up with BG3 and Cyberpunk. Like, obviously, all three of these games are vastly different. But the funny thing is, for me, like, right after Starfield, I played I played Cyberpunk 2.0, and honestly, the parts I really liked about Starfield, which were the like getting to know some of the characters, and also the combat, and like the cities, just the beautiful cities of like New Atlantis and Neon. I'm like, I want to play a game with just the futuristic cities. I don't give a shit about like the space traversal, which was a tedious system, um but with Cyberpunk, I think they did that a bit better, in that it's just very grounded you just in Night City, exploring, and like, I mean, yeah, I don't know if the combat's much better. I feel like they're both kind of the same.
Jet,
Yeah,
the
I think
irony there.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to point out the irony with what you're saying is you just described the other worlds. It's just a bunch of futuristic cities with no space travel.
I got the biggest Outer Worlds fan in the world.
I'm sorry. It's just I mean, that is what he's describing, and I think it'll come back up when we talk about exploration, like the limitations. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
I guess if we're doing comparisons, I guess the closest thing I would compare this game to is probably Mass Effect.
Mass Effect 1 specifically.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. I feel like that's where
100%.
the game probably lands closest to me. And I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect title, so for me it was perfectly fine.
We are in one of the few people who thinks Mass Effect 1 is better than Mass Effect 2. Bob, explain your horrible reason. Yeah, Bob thinks
okay. No, okay. Well,
yeah,
here's what's interesting. I'm going to tie this back to Starfield. So, I really like, because this. I mean, we might as well go into like exploration with where I'm gonna go with this, because one of my favorite things about Mass Effect 1 was legitimately the Mako and exploring these planets, and like driving around and finding the little structures or like points of interest or whatever, or even just like driving around and just like taking in the landscapes and stuff. And I was really excited for that in Starfield, and I think we're all probably going to agree that the exploration in this game is very, very, I guess,
bad.
Shallow.
It's minimal.
No, yeah, I don't want to say I don't want to say bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's I think it's shallow more than anything, because it feels repetitive after a certain point. And I mean, we can talk about procedural generation. We can talk about probably too many planets, because I'll just say off the bat, I've maybe explored 50 planets. And I know it was funny because I went back and listened to our meal prep for Starfield, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to explore every planet. And so far on the planets I have explored, it's like a little disappointing, because it's like I don't want to actually explore all of these planets, because they're super big and repetitive, and there's not enough uniqueness to really differentiate them. So Yeah, and I think that was like a big selling point of this game, both space exploration and planet exploration. I feel like they really missed the mark there.
And I think that kind of goes down to like my major issue with this game is that exploration. You kind of nailed down a lot of what I echoed in the Slice of Gaming podcast, where I talked a lot about it and raved. But the exploration in general just feels so shallow, like you say, in comparison to something like Skyrim. What I loved so much about Skyrim, what makes that game like literally my second favorite game of all time, is I look at that map, I see the Morthal logo, and I'm like, I want to go there. And in between me going from Whiterun to Morthal, there is all these crazy adventures, these cool characters, these interesting dungeons, so much in between that space. And Starfield doesn't have that. Starfield has nothing on these planets. There's barely any wildlife to be that interesting in and of itself. Procedurally generated areas amongst procedurally generated areas. You get like, oh, this is a facility and it's spacers are okay, cool. I don't like there's no real Bethesda world building. There's no interesting situations where like in a Bethesda game like Fallout 3, you go to a house and you just see a bunch of skeletons lying together in a pentagram and you're like, oh, that is like man-made. Like they created that themselves. They wanted people to find that. Or I always think about that one area in Fallout 3 where you just open a door and it just says fuck you in like big letters. It's stuff like those. It's like they wanted you to find that. None of that exists in Starfield because it can't exist because it's all procedurally generated. And I think one of the things is I kind of expected like a situation where 1,000 planets procedurally generated, but like, okay, but there's probably going to be like 25 like actually like Bethesda made planets that I could explore, like the planets that house like New Atlantis and whatnot. No, even New Atlantis, you go on the outskirts, there's just procedurally generated procedural generation all amongst them. Just I don't think the experiment worked. I think what they should have done, and this was actually a Starfield designer, an ex-designer of Starfield that said this, it should have been like 20 or so planets, 2 or 3 star systems that are all handcrafted. Ignore the scope. The scope means nothing if there's nothing out there to find.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's funny because you learn early on, or I guess depending on when you did the faction quest, that there's like a law where all the factions can only own 3 planets. So like UC only has 3, United Colonies only has 3, Freestar Collective only has 3, Crimson Fleet, well, they are a little bit different, but like so it's like that could still work in 20 planets. But yeah, I to go back to the procedural generation, I think and they had said that they will obviously they'll pull from the pool and then they'll handcraft from there. I really didn't see that like at all, and it's even more frustrating when I think it's where the procedural generation really fell flat is the pool from what the procedural generation is pulling is not that deep. There's
Yep.
only so many little outposts. There's only so many cave designs, and it becomes so apparent when you really play through the game. You're like, I have literally already explored this exact tunnel layout before. This should not be happening. Like I have already explored like this exact layout of this building before, and that's really really frustrating and something I think we were willing to give them the benefit of the doubt beforehand, and I think they tried and persuade us, and I think they got away with it because I think I know for sure I definitely was I took the bait there because I think looking back I wish there was more handcrafted stuff because it seems so few and far between.
They
Yeah, like
sold me
sorry,
on
go ahead.
generation. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So with procedurally generated, I feel like that allows developers to do quantity over quality. It's
Exactly.
kind of like yeah, exactly. Right. Like what you both were mentioning, where there's like a lot of repeated areas. Like I remember, I think it was this mine area where you go in and grab that shard. I swear, I've been through that like maybe 2 or 3 times the exact same.
It's insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think if it was just a little bit more of a like a dense game with just like not a thousand areas, like if they slash that number, maybe like these really like a smaller amount, but like really um alive areas. I guess that's the best way to describe it. With a lot going on, then it would have been better.
I think too, what I think really would have helped this game, which is funny because I think if I said this before the game came out, people would think it's not a good idea. And I think in retrospect, maybe it would have been, is the actual plot of land that you kind of land on is so big when it really doesn't need to be, especially because we're on foot and we don't have those land vehicles. Because the boost pack and the dash only get you so far, especially on like low grav planets where it's like really, really tedious. And what's the point of making like 10-kilometer like procedurally generated plots when there's going to be a lot of, one, the same exact thing generated over and over, and two, like there's no reason for me to hit the boundary. So like why not make it shorter? Like why are these so large just to say, oh yeah, you can explore them? There's literally no reason to. There's no point to. No one's found a reason why you would. Like just make it like Mass Effect 1 again, like where it is like, okay, I have this very concise area that I'm going to explore in this biome, because you could still separate it by the biomes. Be like, all right, this is the biome I'm exploring, and like, okay, I've nailed this whole area. Not, oh, I've done all the resources for this area. I could keep going, but I would just be wasting my time, and that kind of bothered me too.
It really just comes down to the fact, like what you said, like land vehicles, like that alone could have just made exploration much better. Like at the very least, it's like, hey, at least I have a moped. And they
Yeah.
really, I always go back to that Todd Howard quote, like where he outright said, it's like, oh yeah, we thought about it, but like we decided in the end. It's like, did we decide it or did you decide it, Todd? Because I don't know. I think that's more so what it feels, because I can't imagine that whole team saying, nah, land vehicles, we don't need them. Like, is it fun just walking into nothingness for like 30 minutes, not seeing anything? Like, I don't see that excitement. I don't feel that sense of exploration. I just am walking on a
Yeah.
big gray blob for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and you don't even get like a cool jetpack where you can kind of fly or anything. No, you just can jump
It's a
at
boost
most.
pack.
And that's it. Yeah.
And I think too, we were saying again, bring back up the meal prep. We talked about this and being like, oh well, you know, some planets are going to be hard to terrain with those land vehicles. And while that is probably true, because there are like planets I've landed on that are dense forest or you know, really elevated to where I couldn't really climb them. I had to kind of go around them or find a way up. I think that's true, but again, 90% of them are very flat and uninhabitable, and I definitely could have used that land vehicle. And you know, I'm sure modders are still going to put it in, but as of right now, they haven't. And as of right now, I'm not exploring as much as I thought I would. So
Possibility. Possibility might add something due to the feedback in the first expansion.
hopefully,
Yeah.
They better. But
Also,
that's the
jumping
thing,
in
though. It's like
this,
that first expansion. Like that's like whole expansion. It's just the drive.
also jumping in, another thing, this game was like a pet project. They're not a pet project, like a dream project for Bethesda. And when they said this, I feel like they really meant with quest line and design of the quest and like the side quests and stuff. Because for someone like me, like I'm kind of monkey brain, so like I just get a quest and I just do the quest. If I find something in between, I'm gonna like put it in the back of my mind and not pay attention to it until I finish the quest I'm given. And I feel like in that regard, when you just look at the quests and how they were structured and written, I feel like Bethesda did an incredible job of this.
I mean, I understand that, but also like they very much were marketing the exploration part of the game. They were very much exploring the solar system, really marking your territory into this vast unknown. And I just feel like there was nothing out there. And I guess I believe it's a dream project, but I'm like, all right, your dream's done. Let's go back to the good stuff again.
I think, well, and to that point, I think you're saying there's nothing out there. While that is true, they didn't give you a reason to go look for it. Because if we remember, they said only 10% of the planets really had life and were densely packed, and a lot of them were barren. So it's not like we didn't know that. But for some reason, they didn't really put us most of the time on those planets. And I have no idea why. Like, especially, I think, I don't know how it was for you guys, but the only time I really explored was when I had to go find an artifact, or a quest took me to a new location that I really haven't discovered a lot of. There wasn't really a reason for me to go find those really cool planets, because like they didn't really incentivize outpost building too much, and they didn't really give you a reason to go settle a new system and make a new whatever, and go find that. So I think that's to your point, Wolf. It's like, yeah, that what they showed us is nothing, and I'm sure there are still a lot of planets that are great, but they gave us no reason to go look for them. So, what's the point?
Only time I
You bring up.
explored, because I'm not
Go
really
ahead.
big into building or anything. Like even a Fallout, I never really enjoyed it because it just never clicked with me. But the only time I explored was when I was in New Atlantis and I was like still learning the controls. Like I don't know if you guys know this, the freehand and other Bethesda game is still in the game. They just put it on a different button prompt. I think you have to like hold Y or something to do it. So I was messing
So
out the
weird.
controls, and it randomly popped up the menu where you can see everything on the planet in New Atlantis. And I found out you can leave New Atlantis, the city, and like there's more to the planet than just New Atlantis. I was like, oh shit. And that was like the only
Right.
time I
Yeah.
explored.
I explored accidentally, where I would be like, "Oh fuck!" Like, I'll bring it up when we get into Regen, but like for some reason, some characters plot, like there was some character that for some reason just spawned like out in the outskirts of New Atlantis, and I basically just like walked for 10 minutes. I found them, and they're like, "Hey, thanks for doing that." It's like, why are you out here? Like, I thought there would be like some reasoning, but no, she was just out there for no reason. But it really just like, I feel like exploration, as Bob says, is so just not incentivized. It's not really in the forefront of what they aim. And another thing Bob brought up that I really want to bring up is outpost building. I'll be completely real. I forgot that was in the game.
Yeah, I didn't do
Because
it.
I didn't even do it. I'm just not into it. I know that they really pushed their hard in Fallout 4, and I missed that a little bit there, but like, I don't care about building a base.
yeah, so you don't care. I'll tell you, I fucking loved outpost building in Fallout 4. That was my shit. I built so many outposts for these crappy rinky dinky towers. I built a big ass tower, like a PF Chang's looking ass building in my fucking main settlement.
The
Loved
most I
outpost
did,
building. That was good.
I made a big ass box. They covered all my shit, and I put 2 turrets outside, and that was my base. I was like, there we go.
Oh
And I
no,
was content with that.
I built a luxury ass penthouse. I had my bobblehead stand, got my turrets, built a goddamn, and every time it's like, yo, your place is being attacked. It's like, all right, I don't give a shit. We're fast traveling back. I fast traveled. And it's like, let's fight some superhuman behemoths. I don't give a shit. I fucking adored outpost building. The difference is in this game, it is such a bitch to get the materials to outpost build, because you need like specific materials all around the world. It's like, okay, let me go get those. But then they weigh a lot, and it's like, okay, I guess I'll have to like grab them and then take them to my cargo hold, which I didn't know that you could store items into your cargo hold, because the UI in this is atrocious, which is something we'll definitely get into later. So I was trying to store all the stuff I got from my personal belongings into the cargo hold to try to go to an outpost building. But then I realized it's like, where am I going to build an outpost? None of these planets are attractive or interesting. Because in Fallout 4, it was very much like outpost building was like kind of set. Like, oh, you can build an outpost in Sanctuary, the Red Rocket outpost, Red Rocket gas station, and like several areas in like the main hub Boston area. And like I built a lot of outposts because it's like, okay, this is kind of like my preordained play area. It's weird in which they give you more exploration, more freedom to choose where you put your outpost, and yet I feel more limited. And where I don't really want to build an outpost on any of these planets because there's no planet that looked interesting. I was always just kind of like, in the back of my mind, it's like I'll build an outpost when something cool is like out there. And then nothing ever interested me. No planet looked interesting enough to where I wanted to build an outpost.
Yeah, I agree with that because like, again, all they had to do is do and I know people didn't want like an outpost tutorial, kind of like, because aren't they in Fallout 4, if I remember correctly, they just kind of force it on you, even if it's just like
It's
kind of
semi-forced.
pushed down.
Well, it's
Part
like
of it, like,
semi-forced.
twice, I believe.
Yeah, it's
No,
like it's hard to
like
miss,
quest
I
time,
guess,
but you
is the
ignore it. Yeah.
right. And I think that's all they need to do is like tell you like, hey, because if I remember correctly too, in Starfield, like early on when you're in Cydonia, there's like this guy that you can kind of do a couple of quests for, where it's like you're convincing people to move to this like planet. It's like a removing. I don't know. It was a whole thing. But my point is, like, they could have easily had like a guy come up to you and be like, "Hey," or even like Walter, because he's got Stroud Eklund and probably knows a lot about business and like manufacturing, being like, "Hey, if you want to learn Outposts, like, here are some plans to go start with," and they give you some cool plans to start with. It's like, I don't know why they didn't do a better job of guiding you there.
The problem is
point.
if they said, "Hey, here's some planets to go with," but the problem is that they're procedurally generated, so it's like you go there, it's like, "What the fuck? Why did you want me to build here? It's barren."
Sure, but I mean, but again, there's still like planets that, even if they're procedurally generated, they are like good looking, to an extent.
I guess.
If you gave them 4, one of them might you might hit the jackpot or whatever. But yeah, it just goes back to, they didn't do a good enough job, I think, of wanting you to do those things. And in my experience, from the people I've heard from that really liked Fallout 4 outpost building, yeah, the Starfield one is pretty, like, it's almost a step backward pretty much in comparison. And I think the final thing there is the unfortunate part is, based on how this game ends with New Game Plus, I also don't want to build an outpost until I'm in my final playthrough. So, I'm going to lose it. So that's also kind of what was in the back of my mind.
Oh, we'll
So
talk
that-
about New Game Plus. Go ahead,
There
Doug.
really is no point. When I beat the game, right? I beat the game. I'm like, okay, maybe I should mess around with the outpost just to see what it's like. And then I started doing the faction quest lines, and I did them all. When you do that, you're gonna end up with like 3 top tier spaceships in like a luxury apartment. I'm like, what is the? I don't need to build anything.
I will say, I got that luxury apartment, and I'm like, hell yes. And I went to go find it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find my
You
apartment
did take the
anywhere.
elevator. You did take like the secret elevator, the second floor. Fucking.
I don't know why
Atlantis.
it's so hidden.
Yeah, I didn't actually ever end up buying. I mean, we can talk about spaceship customization, I guess, and kind of move that way, because I didn't buy a ship. I used the Frontier, the one they give you. I souped it up, and then I had the trade with my parents, and my parents just won a ship and they gave it to me. And I was like, all right, sick upgrade. So I kind of messed around with that one, and then I did the Freestar Ranger mission quest line, and they give you the super sick one. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm done. Like, I'm just gonna upgrade this one, and that's just gonna be like, yeah, I'm waiting again until my final, I guess, quote playthrough to really build my own spaceship. But that being said, I still actually enjoyed the spaceship builder.
So the one from the Freestyle Collective is really good. But if you didn't know, one of the side quests. So after there's a point in the story where, depending on your choices, someone's gonna die. It's inevitable. Somebody's just gonna die. There's gonna be a memorial for that person. After you do that memorial, a quest from I think Walter pops up, and he gives you a quest where you have to go test the spaceship.
Yep, yeah, I did
You
that.
can get the best spaceship in the game just by doing that quest. You don't have to do anything. They just hand it to you. You have to be a certain like pilot level to use it.
Right.
But it is the best in the game.
I guess it depends on your choices, though, because like,
It was either that or like a different one. But like, it's
yeah, but like, based on what you, yeah, because based on what you choose, like, to go for in that, they'll actually, I think they'll make different, like, I think there's like 4 different ships they will make. And yeah, if you make like, oh, well, I want a little bit of everything, it looks like a monstrosity, but yeah, it is like the best one.
It's my thing with that like spaceship building. I was excited to try it out. I wasn't really the thing I was like looking forward to most, but like it really just comes down to that UI. I hated spaceship building because that UI was so weird. There was just so many button prompts that felt like they didn't. Nothing felt like it came together and flowed nicely. Like at one point, it's like, hey, you need like more, I guess, fuel canisters for your ship or something to be able to like move fast. Star
Yeah.
system to like move from
Mhm.
star system to star system, and I kept trying to add it, and nothing would work. And I'm just like, I'm trying to put this thing on. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like, again, like that Fallout 4 outpost building. What I liked about Fallout 4 outpost building snapped into place. Everything just listen. I'm gonna use the quote. It just worked. It quite literally just worked, and I feel like it was just a clean, pleasing way to do it. Very streamlined, yes, but I think it overall was a high quality way of doing it. In this game, I just don't think it was there.
During the Space Pirates quest line or the Crimson Fleet or whatever, there's a part in that storyline where you have to like put a sensor on your spaceship. I was stuck there for like 2.5 hours because I didn't know how to do this shit. I'm looking at like they show you like the spaceship model. I didn't know how to do it. I was just completely lost. I had to YouTube how to do this. I don't know.
That's really interesting. I never had issues with I knew how to put that sensor on, and I felt like the spaceship building was intuitive enough to where I was
was
building
lost.
things and it all kind of made sense once I got the hang of it. I think what really tripped me up was like I think for one of the later artifacts, yeah, it's like a requirement that you have to be able to jump like 28 light years, and I couldn't. And I couldn't get a reactor because I didn't have the skill level. And now I'm like level 45, and I'm like, oh, I haven't put anything into this because I didn't realize this was going to be a thing. And that was like a whole different thing. That wasn't really as much about the shipbuilder as much as it was like the skill trees and stuff. But yeah, that was really I mean, for the most part, I didn't really have any issues with the shipbuilding or anything. And I
So-
thought upgrading things were pretty intuitive too because they were pretty easy.
For that part that you was talking about, where you had to do the thing, I sold my spaceship and just bought another one because they give you so much money in this game. I've never in like Bethesda games most of the time, besides like Skyrim Endgame, I'm normally poor. I'm normally struggling. I'm hurting for cash. This game, I felt like I can buy everything. I would go to stores and like empty them out completely, and it was really weird. I'm not sure if it's a good or
Well,
bad thing, but it was odd.
Getting money in this game was kind of like if you did the Pirates quest line, you were kind of it
You
was
loaded.
so funny when
Yeah.
I did that. No, I did that. That was one of the last ones I did. And it was like, here you go, and it's like 30K credits. It's like this is nothing to me. I don't need this, man. Like you can keep it, honestly. It's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't know, money. The whole money thing didn't bother me as much. But to go back to spaceship, one thing I want to bring up, I just found this funny. I don't think this kind of goes a bit with the UI, but 3-Star Rangers was one of the first quest lines I did, and I finished it, and they're like, yeah, and we got you a ship, and I'm like, oh, where is it? And like I assumed, like, okay, well, there's probably like a plot of land somewhere. I couldn't find it, so I'm like, ah, whatever. So I just took my ship and left. And like 20 hours later, I was struggling in the game, like with space combat. I'm like, damn, I'm struggling. I don't know why. And then I just like look at my ships, and then it's like I see it sees like one of two. It's like what's the other one? And then it was the 3-star ship, and it's like what the fuck? What this was just hiding under my nose. I find that was more me being stupid, but I'm also like, come on, like there's no way. I don't know. I feel like it was hidden almost. I feel like there could have been a better way of telling me that it was
Pretty
there, like just
sure
a
one of
pop-up
the
message.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of the guys tell you to go talk to the guy to access the ship or something. Because I went straight towards him.
Maybe I just ignore people. I don't know. Joe,
Yeah,
did you have something to say?
Yeah, so with ship customization, I didn't like buy or acquire any other ships. Like I was just mostly sticking with the main ship and upgrading it when I had to because I didn't play around with upgrading the ship too much until I added the tanks. But one thing I will say, I mean, I think we're gonna get into this more with the new game plus the ship you get on there. That that's a nice ship
Insane.
That was
that they
sick.
give you.
It's
That was
insane.
Yeah.
But I had
It's a
issues with the
monstrosity,
quest.
but yeah.
I have issues with New Game Plus actually. I'm not a fan of it.
Oh, we'll get there.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, but moving. I mean, like, I want to move on kind of into. Just a real quick one. I want to talk about real fast. Jat was really mad about Space Jail. Jat, have your rant about Space Jail. I just want to hear you
All
talk
right.
about this.
Look, this is gonna be kind of your like a question to you because this is something I've heard. So in Skyrim, you like when you go to jail, you go to an actual jail, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it is. It's the same system as Starfield. You pass time with the bed, or you can what's it
Oh,
called, lockpick. You can escape jail in Skyrim.
yeah. Like this could have just this probably is my expectations mostly were but when I heard about this jail system, I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna put you in this physical prison. You know, you can plan all these escapes. It's gonna be really cool. Maybe do some combat. Nah, you just get out of the police station like GTA 5 or like the hospital in GTA 5. Yeah,
Bro wanted to be in prison.
yeah. I wanted
Yeah,
to.
he
I
wanted
wanted to.
Eldred prison, like a Tools of Destruction. That's such a me reference. I'm sorry. I mean, you can up Jet there to kind of segue combat. Combat is definitely something that's not always the high point of Bethesda games, but I've seen differing of viewpoints on the combat in this game. What are our thoughts on the combat? And I guess we can also utilize that into the spaceship combat as well, like just on the ground combat and space combat. Like, what are our overall thoughts on that system?
It's like an improved version of Fallout 4, which is I really enjoyed that combat system.
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked both the gunplay. I didn't really mess around too much with melee, and mostly
Melee's
because I
awful.
I hadn't really gotten to the physical, like, and we'll talk about that I guess in a different area. But like I never really got around to the skill tree, the combat skill tree, because I just had to spend my resources elsewhere. So I mostly stuck to guns, and then I really thought stealth gameplay was good too. I really liked how they did stealth in this game, and I thought the ship combat was really good. Probably, I mean, it was hard too. Like I really liked how good that was.
Yeah, I think
It
that
has
one
a
was for
learning
sure.
curve, and then it felt very similar to that one mission in Halo Reach. I'm not sure if any of you guys know what I'm talking about, but in
Yes.
Halo Reach, there's a mission where you basically
don't
fly a
remember.
spaceship. You fire a spaceship and you have to do some space combat for a little bit, and it felt like that, just with extra steps. But it did
Really?
feel good once I got the hang of it.
It
I
felt a
played that
lot
game.
like Star Wars Squadrons. That's what it really felt like.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys
Yes.
played that.
Squadrons. Oh, I played that one. I really like that one. I think I like Squadrons a little more, but yeah, it was similar.
My thoughts on the combat are pretty much like kind of fall in line. I do think the ship combat, I don't have much to say because like I rarely partook in it, but from what I played, it was pretty cool. Like kind of switching gears, switching between the engine and whatnot. I didn't like the melee combat. I tried to just Fallout 4 melee combat again, like very stiff, very uninteresting, especially when you compare it to like kind of how katanas work in Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. It's like, goddamn, that shit looks fun in comparison. And again, that's
Oh,
comparison
yeah.
sake.
I will say,
Um,
if you don't get good at the space combat and you go do the Crimson Fleet quest, when you make it to the
Oh,
final mission
yeah.
of it,
Yeah,
you're
you get
good
your
luck
ass
with
whooped.
that.
Yeah, that was tough.
I was like, what is going on? I was safe scumming. I was like, I can't do this, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was a tough one for me. I get, but like the shooting gameplay, there was that report of id Software coming in to help, and like you can definitely feel their influence, especially because I got literally the super shotgun from Doom. It was a double barrel shotgun that did like way too much damage at the point of the game I was at. This is like very early on in the game, and it was like, yeah, 200 times 5. And it's like, what the fuck? So I basically just had that for the rest of the game, and it doesn't feel nearly as good as Doom, but it's close. Well, not close, but like close enough. It's what I think it's as good as we can get with the Bethesda combat. I think that's kind of the part that they improved upon from Fallout 4. As Dark said, very much like an improved shooting gameplay from Fallout 4, but I still think there are ways they could improve it even further. I'm hoping like as we go on with their other games, like combat combat almost feels like they focus more on it than they should, versus like I want you guys to really just focus on the RPG stuff. Like I'm hoping for the next game, like we get some good ass RPG type things versus like, yeah, guys, we really improved our combat this time around, and it's like it's still like, yeah, it's still Bethesda combat. Like we're not like expecting much out of it. It's like I don't know why they always focus on that as like a focal point in every game commentary video talking about their games. I don't know. I just think about that a lot.
Adding on to what Bob said about stealth, this is something I noticed. Very early on, at least for me, I was finding a lot of chameleon armor suits, and these things are incredible. You pretty much you crouch and you go fully camo invisible. It pretty much acts the same as the Chinese stealth armor from the Fallout games. But the main difference is that you get it so early, you get to have fun with this for the entire game compared to Fallout, where it's mainly like a late game item. I had a lot of fun just messing around with stuff. I don't like the more things were opened up to you compared to Fallout, because there are very much things in Fallout that you can only get later into the game compared to early on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, depending on, I don't think there's a set way in what powers you get when, but if you're like paying attention to the artifacts and you get the invisibility power early on, like it's the same thing. It like totally helps with the stealth combat, and I really like that they in the Ryujin quest line they literally give you a stun gun. So it's like that's your way of incapacitating people if you don't want to kill people, and I do like that they give you that option if you don't want to just murder everybody.
It is interesting. I like you say, like kind of the utilization of stealth. I did see one clip going around on Twitter of basically someone playing the game like Dishonored, and I thought that was very cool in and of itself. I just feel like the AI isn't good enough to really make the stealth something special. It feels very much like PS3 era AI. Like I, I don't know. I never doesn't feel much improved from Fallout 4.
I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, it feels about the same.
I want to move on a little bit, kind of in the same.
Oh wait, I'm
ballpark,
sorry. Can I
and
bring one
with
last thing up?
Well, I mean, it's in the same wheel park, so yeah, go for it.
Okay, sorry, I meant to bring this up earlier. Did anyone actually use the workbenches to customize their armor or their guns? Because
I did a little bit.
No.
I tried.
I
Yeah,
changed the
it's-
scopes.
it was so annoying, like how much resources, like how much research you had to dedicate to doing it, and then the resources you had to dedicate to do it, and then it was like didn't really change like my game. It was like I am not like I can't just take a really crappy gun and make it into a great gun. I have to get lucky and get like the blue or purple or gold ones and then upgrade it. Like that actually really bothered me.
It reminds me, like, that's another thing, just like base building, weapon customization. I fucked with that so much in Fallout 4. I love doing that. I loved grabbing, like, I was like in every area, I'm like, where's the adhesive? Where's the adhesive? And it was just one of those things where that was such an exciting mechanic where I'm like, okay, it's just gonna be like Fallout 4 again. Like that was good in Fallout 4. Now bring it back, and it's worse because, like as you said, it feels like it takes so many resources that you have to look all over the galaxy to find these little things just to the spread a little bit better. It feels like the reward for the amount of exploration that you need to do just to be able to improve one gun. And like you said, it won't matter because you're just going to replace that gun for a better gun later on. So it's like, why even like invest the time and effort into making your guns better, making your armor better, if it's just not going to matter at the end of the day?
Kind of the opposite. Because for me in Fallout 4, I've especially with adhesive, well not adhesive, but like adhesive and a couple of that, I was struggling finding. I don't know if I'm just dumb, and I kept missing it. Like I even had the helper thing where like it mark the items when you find them. I was struggling in Fallout 4, but compared to just Starfield, I was so rich. If I ever needed something, I just go buy it. I don't know. I also started upgrading really late game too, for me personally, so that can also add on to it.
No, I bought most of my items too. Once I realized they were pretty much at every like merchant.
Yeah, I just bought everything. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
so
same.
rich.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up skill trees, kind of the progression of the game, and I guess also artifacts. Bob mentioned that earlier. I'll be honest, I completely forgot about artifacts. Did you guys use artifacts often, like those abilities?
Oh yeah, I collected all of them.
I used a
Wow,
couple of them.
okay.
Like I was so strong. Like at one point, if you do all the faction quest lines, you're gonna get some crazy legendary gear. You are so ridiculously powerful. I didn't even have to use it.
Yeah, same. It was just like it didn't matter. So like
It was cool.
I
Like like the one that slowed like when you hit the ground and like it made like an anti-gravity field. That was cool, and I like the idea of them. Just like I needed something to force me to use it because of how
I
strong I was.
literally I quite literally just like pressed a button, whatever the button combination is, I forget. I did that accidentally, and then I like did the powers. Like, wait, what the fuck? And then I just remember it's like, oh yeah, the artifacts. That's like the main thing of the game. You can tell how checked out I was by the end of this game. But I do. I don't know. It's just I feel like artifacts could have been almost utilized better and more useful in general. Bob, do you
The
kind of feel
shouts.
that?
So
Yeah,
I can
Skyrim.
comment on this a little bit because I don't know if you guys are aware, but in the subsequent New Game Plus playthroughs, when you go and find the artifacts, you're actually upgrading them. So they get stronger and more useful over time. And so while the combat ones might not be great, what I think are really good is the dash, the invisibility, like I said. But another great one is I forget, it's like Earth's Touch or whatever, where like literally you hit the power and you pull all the resources within like a defined area. Like it's crazy
oh, that's
busted.
cool.
So it's yeah, and then it's like great for scanning, like doing like scanning like the planet or whatever, because you can just hit that, and if you get a resource on that planet, it counts as you scanning it. So it's like boom, done. Like that planet's been fully charted, and now I just have to do like the points of interest or whatever. So I do think they have a place, but again, they don't really do a good job of maybe enticing you to use them, and I think that's a failure on their end, because you can totally forget about them and not really care, and they don't really give you a reason to care.
Yeah, it's
What
weird. Is
about those?
like the
Okay, go for
oh,
it.
sorry. Yeah, like kind of like they're like a big part of the main story. Where like, oh, you're going from planet A to planet B and hunting these artifacts, and then you come back in New Atlantis in the hub world, and then you add it to the thing, and they talk about it. Like, but like, yeah, like I agree with Bob, where they don't really make as much big of a deal of it, especially with like powers and stuff, as much as they should.
Like, why is there not a weapon range in the lodge where it's like, oh, you have these powers,
Yeah.
we like built a lab so you can go test them out? Like that's all they would need to do. Like, kind of like the training ground in Final Fantasy 16, or like in Hi-Fi Rush, even like testing combos. It's like, why do we not just
Yeah.
have like a basic training ground to try all these powers? Because yeah, again, they just don't really give you a reason to use them.
100%. I do want to bring up skill trees. That was almost the thing I was super excited for with the game. And I just, again, that's another thing that I was thoroughly disappointed with, where I felt like I kind of just like put my points into random shit by the end of the game because I just didn't need a lot of the stuff. Because what happens is that it's like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And it's like there's a lot of stuff in tier 1 and 2 I do not give a shit about. I want to get to tier 3. So it's like, I guess gastronomy. Oh, I heal mode, okay. Like I guess I'll get that just because I want to get to tier 3 and tier 4. It's just one of those things where it's like, just give me full, at least make the requirements to get to tier 3 and tier 4 a lot less taxing. Because I just think, I don't know, it feels like a system that's so outdated and made a better way to handle the skills. Because I actually do like the idea of like upgrading the skills by, fighting. What happens though is that, like, say it's like the pistol one, do more damage with pistols, and then you get the challenge like kill 100 enemies with pistols, and you do that, and it's like, okay, now you have to spend another level up point. It's like, what the fuck? So it's like I have to work harder, I have to kill, and then I have to level up again. I don't know.
This
It
is very
just
much
feels
a
backwards.
Bethesda issue because in Oblivion it's very much the same way. You level up, and in Skyrim to a great degree as well. The only way you can level up stuff is if you do it a bunch of times. And for sometimes, like for some of like the skills that you get, is like this is a fucking pain in the ass to do.
I will say, kind of to your point, just slightly differently, Wolf. My biggest issue with the skill tree is that it felt like tier 1 of so many skills were just like, why is this not just in the game? The fact that I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
do tier 1 stealth to unlock stealth, it's like, you're telling me
That's
if I crouch, I'm
insane to me.
just loud, like I'm still clacking around. Like that's so stupid. And then the weapon targeting skill, like you're telling me my spaceship, like I don't have the right input command to target a spaceship because I don't have like those. And then I think the crouch slide was another one. There's a
Pocketing.
yeah, pickpocketing. Yeah, and
I was
doing
a
like the
level 1.
digi.
Oh,
Yes, you can't
Yeah.
pickpocket. I think that's level 2 actually. Like you
and that's
can't
my
do that.
problem. Like
Yeah,
that's another problem. It's like these things should be like things that we have
right.
inherently.
And that's my issue. It's like you should have done 3 tiers and give us way more of that stuff in the first tier because going back to what I was saying earlier, I could not actually make the character build I wanted to. Like I will give like this is the one time I will compliment Cyberpunk. I can build a skill tree and build out a character very easily in that game. They make, and honestly, a lot of RPGs really like I can, if I want to do a stealth build, like they make it very easy. If I want to do a strength build, et cetera, et cetera. In this game,
Uh-huh.
I had to spend so many skills early on to like make my character usable that by end game, at least in the first playthrough, it's like, okay, it's taking me forever to level up and I actually can't even build the character I want to because it's taking forever. And that really, really frustrated me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was using the skills more like not to like necessarily develop a character like you were, more of just in terms of practicality. Like for example, just with how much shit you can carry, I upgraded that so I could carry more shit. Or like
Yeah,
with
that was the first one I went all the
Yep.
way to like
Same.
the tier 4.
yeah, and then there was also one for the grab jump. It was I think the astronomer one where you can increase that.
Right.
Yeah. I want to move on to graphics. Obviously, not the most important part of the game, but do we think that this game graphically is good enough for the generation of gaming we're
Yes.
at, or
Yeah,
comparatively to all other RPGs?
yeah, it's a Bethesda game. You get Bethesda graphics. That's what I felt like.
I think for me it was honestly, I mean if we again going back to the meal prep one of that was the biggest thing was like, and even built leading up to this game, it's like, is it going to be a smooth 30 frames? Is the game going to look and feel like a next gen game? And if I'm being honest, I do think they nailed it. And part of that is art design. Like we talked about, like the NASA punk. I think that helped a lot with like it being kind of gritty and everything. But I mean, the lighting on a lot of these worlds was beautiful. I mean, every time I'm in space and you just get that subtle glow from the sun and there's like a shadow of a planet and like whether it's like one of the starships or whatever kind of in the shadows and you're docking on it, like that looked amazing. When you're on a planet and there's a close enough planet that's like in the backdrop, that looked beautiful. I can't speak enough to like how good this game looks, and I think it's also worth pointing out that it's the most screenshots. I think I'm at like 120 screenshots. I abuse the photo mode without even having to like put filters on it or anything. I just wanted to like get the shot that I wanted to, and yeah, I think they nailed it. Now, is it as high fidelity as we'll say Alan Wake 2, that's a recent release, or Spider-Man 2, or Final Fantasy 16? No, but I still think, especially because of the scale of the game they're making, I think it is still a beautiful game that runs really well. I thought it was like super well optimized.
So I think my viewpoint is almost like I would be more forgiving. Like, so I actually think aesthetically, like the visuals of the game, like what you say about the planets, that all that is fine. It really comes down to the NPC and character models that bother me more because if I feel like they nailed like the other aspects of the game, like the exploration, the RPG stuff, all that, I would be much more forgiving. But in my opinion, they didn't. So it tends to make me nitpick more, and I'm just like, man, these character models just don't look good. They look last gen, and I hate using the term like last gen, but like I genuinely think they look like Fallout 4 character models, and it's like I don't know, man. We're like 8 years removed from Fallout 4, and if your character models still look about the same quality as that game's, I don't know. I think there's something going on here. Work on making these look more interesting character wise. I think again, like I do think the visuals of like the actual world and whatnot are fine, but it really just comes down to those character models. Because
I think I
guess like
agree. I just like you're definitely right, especially because Baldur's Gate 3 just came out and you see what they do with like the
Oh, yeah.
mocap and the performances there. I totally agree. Like I still think like Sarah Morgan looks kind of off, and you know, the very typical Bethesda like stand up straight, you know, not really a lot of facial inflections. Like it's showing its age for sure. But I think that's still a weak point in an otherwise really, really impressive game. Like I think the lighting system in this game is insane for like it's
Oh yeah.
not static you know, light maps or whatever. Like it is very much dynamic to what you're doing, and I just you're not wrong, Wolf. I just it's there's so much good that's going on with this game in that department that it's definitely something they need to fix. But um, the improvements they made elsewhere, I think, were worth it in my opinion.
it just comes down to like a lot of the emotional beats and emotional moments of the game that they were really trying to just didn't work for me because those character models looked so off to me. They looked so uncanny. And I guess we could use that to transition more into the actual story and RPG aspects of this game, which definitely is going to be the meat of this discussion, I assume. I guess I'll ask right off the bat. Where do we want to start with the story? Again, do we want to start with the main quest, a certain faction quest line? Like, what is the thing that like you're burning to talk about first, y'all?
I want to talk about New Game Plus, so let's do the main story.
Okay, let's do main quest. Actually, that's a good idea. Do we like this main quest? 'Cause I
I think
don't.
this is the best one Bethesda has.
Yeah, I
Oh,
liked
you're
it.
crazy.
I thought it was really good.
Come on, you guys
No,
didn't
no,
like
you gotta hear
Skyrim.
me. Let me explain. I think this is the best main quest that Bethesda has, just for the pure main quest itself. When you get into side stuff, then things deviate. And I think that when you mentioned Skyrim, I think Skyrim's DLC has a way better quest than the actual main quest of
Oh
Skyrim itself.
God, without question, yes.
But yeah,
I just couldn't find myself getting invested in the main draw of the main quest, like especially at the beginning. Like the first half of the main quest is extraordinarily boring. I feel like it doesn't actually pick up until you meet what's his name, the hunter, and then the other guy, um, Bill. I'm gonna call the other guy Bill from accounting. But like
Okay.
when you meet the hunter and Bill, it's just that's when the quest actually starts to get interesting, and like the overall themes of the story start to pick up and be much more fascinating. But it also kind of leads to again a more binary choice at the end of the day, where it's like, okay, do you want to go with Bill from accounting or the hunter? And it just doesn't overall work. While you guys talk, I'm gonna figure out who this guy's name is so
I
that I
will
don't have to
say,
call him Bill.
though they chose a plot like theme that's very easy to fuck up. Like I always get skeptical when time travel and shit comes into the mix, but you can mess this up so easily. And I feel like for what they wanted to do, they did it good. But like every time I see time travel, I kind of groan inside. Not to say that I didn't enjoy the story, I did. It's very
Yeah.
easy to fuck this up.
No, 100%. And I did find that part a bit confusing, but there's a part where you have to pick between the two characters, right? Like the two teams
The emissary.
towards the end. Yeah,
Yeah,
the emissary
that's
and like I did like both sides in that th- this like kind of this was kind of like I'm trying to think of the word for it. Mm, Like it just reflects on the real world's debate of religion. That's what I felt with it because I thought that was a really cool thing they added.
that's definitely the thing I was most interested in. Like, it's definitely one of the main themes of the game overall is religion, faith. You know, what comes after death, like what our beliefs kind of lead us to. Like, in general, like how our beliefs shape who we are and what we become. But I just feel like the binary choice between the hunter and the emissary was almost like I didn't really subscribe to either of their philosophies. I just went with the hunter because I was like, you look cooler, because neither of their philosophies really made sense or was interesting to me, and it didn't really feel like I was. It didn't feel like I was invested in this plotline anywhere near to the point that I feel like I should have been.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely well, I disagree, but also
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think just going back real quick, I did not think this is where they were gonna take this story. I thought it was going to be an alien race,
Yeah, same.
and like more of a Mass Effect story, right? Where it's like
Mhm.
there have been these other species for like thousands of years, and it turns out like they have their own governments and stuff, and it's like, oh, we're just now finding out about all of it. Not, oh, actually, like it's still humans, and we have, we have found like this, this like technology or whatever to let us do this, and now your universe is now at that critical juncture, and like what you're gonna do with it. Like I really, really like that, and like Dark said, it's very easy to fuck that up, and I thought they did a good job with it. And I also thought it was, there are like actual stakes. Like when, I guess, should we go around and say which companion of ours died? Because I'm curious what yours
Uh,
all were.
I
Oh
think it
yeah,
was Barrett. I didn't care. I was
Sure,
just like,
but I'm
sucks
just,
for you.
yeah.
Dark's not here right now, so.
Jay, what
oh
about you?
yes. Oh yeah, Baird was the cowboy one, right? Like
No,
it
that's
was between.
Sam.
Oh, sorry. Oh
Oh
yeah,
man, that's gonna go into one of my later issues. Just that
yeah,
mix up
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that's how you could tell these characters weren't that memorable. But yeah, like I had the choice between like Sam and Sarah, and I picked Sarah because I wanted to go for that risk quest, even though I didn't complete it. But that's okay.
Yeah, for me it was Barrett and Andreja, and I was like, well, I'm definitely saving Andreja.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was. I thought that was like a really interesting angle. Then obviously like the attack on both the lodge and the eye and like that stuff, and then um, or not Dark. Wolf, you. I guess you do know there was a third option at the end, right? Not that I don't think not that it mattered in the grand scheme of things and didn't really change the ending too much, but there was a third option.
Yeah, to just not go with either of them, right?
Yeah, right.
Death wish, like a GTA 5.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the did you end up picking that option or did you end up picking
No,
one of them?
again, I just chose the hunter because I'm like, he looks
Oh,
cool.
Right. Okay.
I picked that option. I picked the Death Wish because I'm like, I don't want to pick a side, and it ends up being way harder because double the enemies are just
Right.
going at
Oh,
you.
really?
Yo, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really hard. um,
Oh, no, I wish I did that because
yeah,
that final level, it was really cool, but I was also like, this is easy.
yeah, and the Death Wish was good. Like I thought it was a good story moment, but then yeah, and then I just really thought that I actually did understand the kind of point of views between both the hunter and the emissary, and thought they both kind of had a leg to stand on. I just agreed with the hunter more. Um, but I just thought like overall, like I did think it was thought provoking enough to like really make you think about it, and like I don't know, I just really liked the themes they were going with in the main story.
I do think the idea behind the hunter was more interesting. Like, it was that thing. Like I say, like I went with the hunter because he looked cooler. Like that's kind of like me being facetious. Like I do actually thinking about it more. It's like I do actually subscribe with his philosophy a bit more than the fuck, I forgot his name again. Bill
The
from accounting.
emissary. Yeah.
The emissary. Thank you. Yeah, I think we should just rename him Bill, honestly. But I don't know. Like I remember like just thinking with like the emissary's viewpoint, I wasn't as into it. And again, this is more remembering. I beat this game 2 months ago because I'm like, what was his viewpoint now that I think about it? Hey, Bob, do you remember by chance?
Yeah, here we go. If I remember correctly, the hunter just wanted everyone to like kill he was the one that was on the side of like kind of murder anyone who gets in our way kind of thing. And then I want to say that the emissary I don't know if it was like the total peace option
No,
or if
I don't think it was that because I think it was the emissary wanted to almost remove free will. It was something like that.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was like the hunter. That's what it was. The hunter was very much like whoever has the ability to get the artifacts deserves the power that comes with it. And the emissary was like, no, only one person is worthy enough, and they get to control everything. That's what it was.
Yeah, the emissary was a bitch. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, and it's like I understand, I guess, where he's coming from, but I just don't subscribe to it.
100%.
Yeah.
It was an interesting choice, but again, it really did feel binary. Like, you get your 3 options, and it's a lot like I know you haven't been at Mass Effect 3's ending. Like, why people hate that ending so much is because it's so binary. It felt like nothing really mattered at the end of the day because it's just going to be a 1, 2, 3 choice. And I guess in an RPG, like, I want something more than that. Like, I think about, like, at the end of Fallout New Vegas, you get this super fascinating slideshow where they go through every single faction, and it's like, yeah, your choices, what you did with that faction, mattered at the end of the day, and it's going to matter to that faction and what they did. They don't even Region Industries in the ending. All right, I went through that for nothing. I'm like, okay.
I mean, no, they do,
Well,
but
no,
I agree.
again,
It was
I
not
get that.
like that final that like final kind of area where you review all your stuff was
I
very
forgot about that.
disappointing.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was just one of those things. You walk in and it's just like, hey, that thing you did, good job, champ. It's like, okay.
Yeah, they don't really. Yeah, I agree. Like New Vegas and again Outer Worlds, they do a very good job of like setting up like why your choices means everything. And to I think a point you said earlier, you know, outside of which is another I think critique if we're talking about story outside of like a couple of like small things like your decisions like I think about like the Crimson Fleet versus UC Sys stuff like the choice you make at the end of that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really change like how
You
much
still get
of
money.
yeah you don't really see like the world change around you. And I also thought it was really annoying that like all of your companions outside of like I don't know maybe Barrett and Andreja, mostly like Sam and I think Sarah specifically, like they were just the most butthurt people
Oh
about
my
a
god,
lot of
we're
the
gonna talk
choices you
about
make.
companions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that
Yeah.
really bothered me. And I think so yeah, I didn't like, to your credit, Wolf, I didn't like the choice and consequence because I don't like I was making choices and I think they still mattered enough, but at the end of the day I don't think
They matter. They matter as a microcosm, like in that specific quest line, that situation, but they don't affect the macro of the entire world.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that everything? I do want to move into companions. Did you guys
Wait,
have
hold on.
any
I think Dark wanted to talk
more
about
thoughts
New
on
Game
New Game Plus?
Plus. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd like to
New
talk
Game
about
Plus.
New Game
Yeah,
Plus.
we could talk real quick about New Game Plus. I don't
Okay.
like it.
So as a concept, story-wise and as a concept, it's incredible. I like the idea of it. Until you actually do New Game Plus, where they take away all your stuff.
Why did they take away your stuff?
Yeah,
It's
look,
so
I
weird.
have
It's New
attachment
Game
issues.
Plus.
I earned all my. I did. So I beat the game the first time I seen it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to this afterwards because that's the canon. The canon ending is that you go to New Game Plus after that. That's how it ends.
Yeah.
They take away all your stuff that I worked so hard to get. I ain't doing all this again. I don't know, just for that main reason alone, I just don't like it.
And it's one of those things where everyone you talk to isn't like, oh man, you're gonna have like, bro, I romanced Andreja and I was like, I bet she's gonna be like really against me going, we have this strong love together. And she's like, yeah, no, you should go. It'd be pretty cool. It's like, what, does anybody care that I'm like never gonna see them again? It just feels weird.
And I came back, and she was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
I'm like,
I was
damn, okay, shit.
She was like, if I would have gotten the opportunity to do this, I would have been gone. I'm like, what?
Thanks. I'm glad our love means nothing to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I played a little bit of New Game Plus, and I still remember this one scene where like you try to explain to like for me it was trying to explain to Sarah about everything that's happened, and like you feel and then she just kind of believes it, but it doesn't. I don't feel like I feel anything like it doesn't add anything to the story. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with Dark where I like the idea behind it. I think it's really cool. I just didn't like really the execution. Like losing all your stuff, and that's the thing. I did have hindsight in that regard. So I didn't spend as much time as I think I would have, like really personalizing my playthrough because I was like, I'm gonna lose a lot of this anyway, so I gotta be efficient in what I'm really spending time on. But I think the the other thing I've heard is that in the New Game Plus runs, there is like very little dialogue options that are like, hey, I've literally done this before and this is what happens. It happens like very, very, very infrequently to the point where they did it once in the beginning. You're like, oh, cool. I now have like this whole like suite of options I can do in conversations. And it turns out it's like very, very limited, and that was a bummer. But I think my final point is that and obviously I haven't gotten there yet, but obviously New Game Plus 10, which is obviously ridiculous. Which you can pretty easily, like, they give you the option to skip all the unnecessary like story missions and you can just basically go hunt artifacts. So to get to New Game Plus 10 is not that hard. But once you get there, it's like you basically have hit like actual end game, and it's like, okay, now I can build my spaceship, build my outpost, because this is as far as I'm gonna go, kind of thing. So
I don't know if maybe it's in the game. I just don't know. But like something I noticed when you're playing through the game and you're hanging out in Constellation, they mentioned that the founder of Constellation went out to space one day and never came back. To me, that sounds like he did the New Game Plus thing.
Right.
Like he probably found the artifact. It would have been cool if you go to New Game Plus, you can pick up on his trail, and then a new storyline starts up that's exclusive to New Game Plus. Maybe that's for an expansion or something, but I
isn't
don't know.
the expansion name like First Explorers?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
Something like that.
I'll look it
Yeah,
up.
also that's another point. So like, how is the expansion going to work with New Game Plus? Is it going to take place post game, meaning that you have to do New Game Plus, or is it going to take place before?
And like that's kind of my major issue, like overall with New Game Plus. It just feels like you don't get anything new out of it. You feel
You
like
get
you
the
walk.
spaceship and the armor. That's
Oh
about it.
man, that's worth losing everything. Like that really just comes down to it's
Do you
like,
want to look
okay,
like a Destiny character?
I get some dialogue options, an armor, and a new spaceship, and then nothing else. And it just feels like I go into New Game Plus just for the sake of going into New Game Plus. Concept wise, it is really cool, but it was like that Pete Hines quote where he very much said like, "Oh, the game doesn't start until New Game Plus." It's like, nah, man. When I hit New Game Plus, I was kind of done.
Yeah, I don't know who said like. I don't agree with that. I was like, what the fuck are these guys on
Yeah, there
about?
was a lot of I heard a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, like bull rush through the game because like really you're gonna have way more fun in New Game Plus." And then I think the more the game came out, they were like, actually no, you really should like spend a lot of time with that first playthrough, and then maybe you can like start getting serious with like New Game Plus, just knowing what's on the other side. But two things real quick. One, it's called Shattered Space, so I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know what that's gonna mean. But then also two, just real quick, I know it's annoying that we, lost all of our stuff, but they do talk about it in the game, how like why that matters and like why you're doing it and kind of like the philosophical meaning behind it, like you're giving up all your possessions to like become like a higher being. So it's like it does make sense. I just wish there was like maybe a way where it's like, hey, actually this planet in the middle of nowhere just has all your stuff.
I mean, yeah, but
Yeah.
I get from a story wise it makes sense. But when you get the end of the story and all that's left is gameplay, I'm like, you take away all my fun shit, bro.
I feel like
Yeah.
the problem is like I become a higher being, but like I don't feel any different. Like I feel like it would have worked if like say my attacks were a bit stronger, or, like just
I
some
mean,
type of
they
gameplay
do.
difference. Oh, does
Like,
it?
yeah, well, one, because your level goes up.
Oh,
Just
no,
like you're
no,
at
I
your
know
level.
that doesn't count.
No, but what I'm saying is like literally like you are technically stronger, and the big thing there is your powers. Like if you get the artifacts, your powers do grow every new game. Plus your spaceship gets better, your suit gets better. The weapons at the end that you get from the hunter and the emissary get better. So like there are like some like actual improvements you're getting.
I guess I just wanted like a bigger, like more noticeable improvement. Like, I guess that's kind of my thing with New Game Plus. It could have been more noticeable. And one of the big things is just comes down to like the difference in characters. Because I know there is a lot of like crazy stuff that happened in New Game Plus for a lot of people where like, I heard about Greg Miller, he went through a bunch of New Game Pluses. And there was one where like basically everyone left except what's the cowboy's daughter, and
Yeah.
he basically controls Constellation and all that. But like again, like those are small little cool cutscenes versus really altering the world. And like I heard a lot of opinions where it's like, why not just have like the Constellation building be a new color? Sarah Morgan has a new haircut, changes like that where it's like it's obvious that we're in a new universe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, says I don't believe in multiverse theory, obviously. Otherwise, they would have been doing that.
I mean, they kind of do, but not enough, right?
They kind of do, but like
Yeah.
they didn't full sunset.
Yeah, no.
No.
I do want to move on. Jed, did you have something else to say about New Game Plus, or is that it?
Yeah, no, there wasn't too much else to add because I played it a little bit. I like the ship and the suit they gave, and then I'm like, oh, it's just the same game over again. I don't want to do this.
The suit feels ripped out of Destiny 1. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I want to move into companions. Bob kind of alluded this earlier. I feel like they're all stick in the muds, and I am not very much into any of them. My favorite is Andreja, but even then, that's just like I like you the most, but like I'm still not like head over heels in love with you, to the level of like companions in like other games of this type. I mean, do you guys feel the same?
This game specifically, it felt like everyone had like if you would have put like a board of all like the character traits. So like if let's say you're morally gray, right? Or like you're super evil, you're super good. I feel like all the companions fit into one and they don't deviate from that. Like Sarah, she's just pure good. You have to be pure good around Sarah. Otherwise, like if you do the Crimson Fleet quest and you come back
Yeah,
to
oh,
Sarah,
it's so
oh
annoying.
yeah, you have to live that.
Dude,
But then at
she
the same
got
time,
so mad at me. Go
with
ahead.
Andreja,
Same.
if you pick like a good option, she's gonna be on your ass. I'm like, what? It's either one or
Is
the
that the
other.
case?
There's no like middle ground.
Wait, no,
Andreja for
Andreja,
me was always
she
super
wanted me to
negative.
only pick. Oh, you're crazy. No, dude.
That's
Yeah,
actually
no.
nice
If
of me.
I didn't go with anything positive, like she would have gotten mad with me. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
No,
that was
for me,
also
she
my
always she
experience.
wanted the evil dark route. I'm like, oh okay. Well, not evil, but
Really?
like she wanted me to do like the more aggressive route.
Yeah, no, she got really mad at me when I sided with the Crimson Fleet, and I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't care. That's why
Yeah.
Vasco's the best companion. He doesn't judge. He's like, yeah, fuck it.
Oh, I have thoughts.
Okay, you want me to be completely honest? So when that whole situation happened in the mid game where one of your companion dies, they were all crying over Bear, like, Bear, no! And I looked at the back and I saw Vasco was on the floor, and I unironically was just like, no, Vasco! I was actually sad because I thought Vasco died. And then he's like, oh, okay, we're good. It's like, okay, cool. Oh shit, Barrett's dead. Fuck if I care. But Bob, you have thoughts about Vasco?
Okay, so I alluded to this in the meal prep that Sam from Outer Worlds was my favorite companion because he had like a lot of good funny dialogue and he was just like a really unique character, and I was really hoping Vasco would be that in this game, and he has like 3 voice lines. The whole like, oh, he can like say your name. It took me forever. I had to look it up because I was like, I'm typing in all these different things that he's not saying. I'm like, what's going on? And it turns out it's like a very small list of names he can actually say, and then you have to type it in a certain way to actually get him to like say it. And it's like, dude, what? Why is this so hard for him to say my fucking name? So that really like annoyed me.
Codsworth had 500 names. My real name's Arab, so like that. Just now that they ain't gonna put that in the name.
Oh,
Yeah.
same. You know what I mean? Like mine is an Indian name, so obviously they won't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
continue.
so
my
it's
name wasn't.
yeah, it's just it was a little frustrating in that regard, but honestly, it was mostly that like every time I talked to him, he said one of 3 voice lines, and that was really, really, really frustrating. And he doesn't really talk a lot. Like when he's your companion, he doesn't offer anything. Like he is very just they really like dropped the ball with him, and like that really bothered me because again I may or may not have a statue of him, and was really looking forward to his involvement in the game like I did Sam in the Outer Worlds, and it just felt completely flat.
For me, the
It's
worst
just like,
companion was the cowboy and his daughter. Because they get
oh
so
my
annoying in the
god, I
spaceship.
hate them.
I had to think, I'm like, I don't want to hear about how you're gonna ground this little child every single time I come into my damn spaceship.
Yeah.
I just, it's one of those things where like I don't care about any of these people. Like Andrea's just my favorite. Like I just romanced her, but even then, it's like her storyline is cool, but like it also feels almost like the way it ends, because like you do that whole like thing with her House Varun, which I have major thoughts about, like my issues with House Varun's involvement in this game. But like that quest line kind of ends, and she's just like, "Damn, shit sucks." And I'm like, "Yo, you want to get married?" And she's like, "Yeah, fuck it." It's like, what? I feel like there was no real progression in that plot line in and of itself, and then just all the other characters, like Barrett just makes corny ass dad jokes. Sam is stuck with his dumbass daughter who's always just existing, and I hate her. And then fucking Sarah is like the most wet blanket you will ever meet in a video game. I just don't. And the fact is, there's 4 companions. 4 companions plus Vasco, so that's 5. Versus Fallout 4, where you had like Codsworth, Kate, Strong, Piper, all like Nick Valentine, amazing companions, ones I genuinely cared about and were interested in every single one of them. And they all had unique attributes and traits. Like if you do some bad shit, Kate will be like, "Hell yeah, dude, do some more of that." Like I love how Fallout 4 allowed you to have different companions that if you did an evil route, they were so cool with it, and if you did a good route, you had companions for that too. And I just don't think that's the case here because these companions are such wet blanket good guys.
First defense, I feel like this has the same issue that Skyrim has, because I didn't care about any of Skyrim's companions until the DLC. And if you know, you know, but I feel about that. So maybe
The
they'll do the
Skyrim
same thing with
companion?
the. Yeah, I didn't care about any of them
Well,
until
oh
the
no, I
DLC.
mean, no, that's fair enough, but I think that's a different though because like Fallout 4 is there, and I think Fallout 4 companions were great.
For the most part.
Yeah, I do think though overall like the character design here very much reminds me of like like just a general critique people have made about like Harry Potter and stuff, where it's like it's so binary, it's so black and white, and like I don't know, I don't think that's really acceptable anymore in 2023 for video games. Like there has to be some gray, there has to be some nuance, and these are just the most generic and I think basic design characters. They really did drop the ball there, especially like again, I think for me the best example recently was Cyberpunk. Like Panam and Judy specifically were both really, really like memorable and enticing characters, and had their own like motives, and affected how you played or how you interacted with Night City, and like your thoughts on it. And hell, one of them even has an ending to the game. And I think about what was the other game I was gonna mention? Doesn't matter. Like basically, or I guess Mass Effect too. Like Mass Effect, it's like
Oh my
those
God,
companions.
yes.
Oh my god, like they are all so unique
The
and
best in this.
different, and add something to the game. And so yeah, I think Bethesda really dropped the ball here, and hopefully they can remedy that in the future.
Yeah, you bring up Mass Effect 2, so something I want to touch on briefly, because if they do make a sequel to this, so I do want them to make a sequel. I like the universe and the idea of this. If you make a Mass Effect, not Mass Effect, if you make a Starfield 2, I want it to be like take more from Mass Effect 2, because it's very clear this game is very close to Mass Effect, and there's nothing wrong. Just take stuff that they did and put your own twist on it, and I feel like they'll hit something really nice where everybody will be happy. I want to see more influences from that game.
It's interesting you say you want to see a sequel. I don't mostly, well, because I'm a
Well,
negative Nancy. I want them to just make Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout. I don't care anymore. But
the sequel will come out to like 2052. Okay, this game is not coming out no time soon.
oh yeah, for sure. But like my big thing is like, you say you're really interested in the world. I don't really care because I don't feel like they explored the world as much as they could have. I feel like the museum, kind of in the beginning of the UC Vanguard quest, which we'll get into, I feel like everything in that regard, like I was interested in learning more there, but it almost felt like it was contained within that museum, and then nowhere else really was any of that mentioned. And I wish I could have really gone into that stuff, but I couldn't. And it's just that's kind of how I felt throughout the whole game, where it's like there's a lot of like telling me about a lot of this cool, interesting stuff, but it's all it's almost like I was in this game. You're born in the wrong generation, where it's like, man, we're born in like the lamest era. Like, oh, we're in peace. Like, come on. Like in
No, you're
Skyrim,
100% right.
you're like in Skyrim, you're in the middle of a civil war.
Yeah.
In Fallout 4, you're fighting against like the Institute about to do that. And here you're just like, yeah, everything's pretty chill. Things looking pretty good around here.
And what's even worse is that I think it's not the Freeside Rangers, the UC
Yeah.
security. I think it's
UC Vanguard.
yeah,
you see that.
where they literally you like sit in that museum and they tell you slide by slide. It's like, can I not play a flashback or something? Like what? Like that? You're 100% right. They show and don't tell way too much with this game, and I think that's pretty frustrating.
That
Yeah,
museum felt
and
like
also
teasing
go ahead.
for the UC Vanguard questline, though.
I mean, they
Well, yeah,
are,
but I
but
feel like
like
they could have
still, like they could have done a better job. Like Wolf's 100% right with like just in general, they talk a lot about the war and how all of these things like came to be, and like all the factions took massive damage and were weak and vulnerable. It's like that sounds really cool. I didn't get to see any of it. And then you go to like you see like the mech warehouse where they're all like decomposing in that field, and it's like, this looks awesome. Where is this game?
It reminds me kind of the difference between this and like Fallout is Operation Anchorage is something that's very much a big thing in the lore in Fallout. And the difference is that with Operation Anchorage, that was kind of like the war for Alaska. Wait, man, I love the Fallout universe. But like it was kind of the war for Alaska in that universe, before the bombs dropped. And they really extensively, there is a lot of history there and like kind of what happens. And in Fallout 3, you get to play it. You get to go to Anchorage, kind of like in a flashback type deal where you fight in that battle. And it's a really cool experience. And I feel like that's one of those things that this game was missing, are more of those experiences. I hope the DLC has that, where it's like, yeah, let me see these wars. Because one of the big things that bothers me is that it's like, oh, there is uneasy tensions between the Freestar Collective and the UC, the United Colonies. I don't see that. I kind of get a little bit of that like political thing with like one of the quest lines. I forget which one, where you kind of have to go to the embassy for the Freestar Collective in New Atlantis.
Yeah, it was the
And like
Vanguard.
Vanguard, okay. And like there is uneasiness, but it doesn't feel nearly as extensive that I feel like it could have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I also do want to point out, I guess on more of a positive note, I forget the name of the mission now, but we'll call it, because I think everyone just, this is how they reference it, the Titanfall 2 mission near the end of the story, getting one of the
I forgot
artifacts.
to
That
mention that.
was
That
a
was awesome.
very good high point. And I think some of the, like, I really liked, for me, I liked the SysDef and the Crimson Fleet questline the most. I thought that was really entertaining. Shout out the Red
I mean, we can go
Mile.
into that.
Yeah, sure.
That was definitely one of my favorites as well. Like you said at the end, like earlier, you said like the end, that choice felt very binary, but and there really isn't much difference between choosing the the UC SysDef or the pirates, because like as pirates and like you walk into New Atlantis, they're like, oh shit, it's him. It's like they're like, oh hey, what's up, man? Everything's chill. It's just I don't know, more of I wanted old universe changing, like things that would actually affect that world more, other than just like you go with the pirates or you see sis stuff. But even that, do overall like it. Go ahead.
What's really funny is that I did the Crimson Fleet UC Sif stuff before I did the Vanguard one. The Vanguard one I did last, and they literally let me sign up in the UC Vanguard, even though I helped the Crimson Fleet backstab SysDef and like let them win the battle. And it's like, really? Like, I should be locked out of this. Like, you guys should not be anywhere. Like, you should shoot me on sight. So yeah, that was kind of crazy. I did want to point out the Ryujin quest line. I really, really liked, even though I liked the Crimson Fleet one a little bit more, I liked how there was a lot of political intrigue and backstabbing and sabotage and stealth, and like everyone's got ulterior motives, and there's a lot of different things going back and forth on what the company's trying to do. And I really thought that was, in my opinion, it felt more like a cyberpunk game than most of what you actually play in cyberpunk, for different reasons. But I really, really like that. But also, as like kind of a quick side note, I also thought that Neon was a really disappointing area. And that, yeah, and that kind of goes back to where they dropped the ball. But yeah, I love the Ryujin quest line.
There was a quest I did.
Okay, well, go for it.
Yeah, there was a quest I did in Neon that I thought was kind of cool, but it ended up actually ending up a little underwhelming. It was a side quest where you basically sneak into this lab and you make these drugs for this guy, and you sell it to him. I don't know if either of you did that quest.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there isn't too much that happens. Like, the only reward you get is money, nothing else.
Yeah, it doesn't really add much into the world. It's just like you get some cash.
Yeah.
Bob, it's interesting how you say how much you love the Ryujin Industry questline. I thought that one sucked. I thought it was easily the worst faction. I just found it as I'm doing a quest line, I'm grabbing an item, leaving, pickpocket, leaving. It really just felt like kind of going from point A to point B. I didn't feel that corporate espionage cyberpunk aesthetic really fits because and how this game runs doesn't facilitate really the desire to want to be a corporate espionage and like really immerse myself in that regard. So I did things the way almost breaking the game of just like, yeah, I'll just go and grab the thing and no one's gonna care because no one for some reason seems to notice that I just steal these files or change this ledger. I just do the weird sneaking mechanic that I have to unlock, which is still insane to me. But just in general, like, I don't know. Overall, the questline just felt really bland to me. And at the end, I couldn't even complete it because the game bugged out. And I was supposed to apparently talk to a reporter in New Atlantis to kind of complete the quest, like the final quest. And you know what happened? That reporter spawned on the other side of New Atlantis, and he just didn't. He was apparently what I found out. He was underneath the world itself, and I couldn't get to him, so I couldn't complete the quest line.
That sucks. I mean, I still like fundamentally disagree of like what you're saying about the quest line, because I mean, you're literally going into rival corporations to like steal like their work and infiltrate them and like tear them down to prop you up, but then you realize there's like a double agent who set you down this rabbit hole in the first place, and she's doing it to try and advance herself at the company that we all work at. And you know, there's it probably didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but they make it, you know, sound like it's like you can't kill anybody, you can't bring up any suspicion. So if you do it without getting noticed and without killing anybody, that'd be like the
Oh,
best
I
way
killed them.
forward. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like
I got it.
I don't. Right, and so I can understand why that would obviously suck, but you know, in my head canon, I was very stealthy. I didn't you know, I didn't kill anyone, and you know, I infiltrated everything like without bringing up any alarms, and so I just really liked that. And so yeah, I don't know. I just fundamentally disagree, but I can still kind of understand where you're coming from.
I think my issue really just comes down to the presentation of everything in this game, like how it like just really comes down to like I go through that quest line and like what you say, all that sounds so cool on paper. On paper, it is so interesting, so fascinating. But when I'm in the game, it's just slow. It feels robotic almost. I'm just not nearly as invested because again, those character models just don't look good. And it's hard for me to really get excited or fascinated by what's happening on screen when everything is so stiff. But I do think again on paper it's all really cool.
I think that's just an overarching critique of the game that I definitely agree with. A lot of this stuff sounds really cool on paper. I just don't think they executed very well.
I
Yeah, I agree, more or
do
less.
go for it. Go ahead. Oh, is that it?
No, that was about it. Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about the last two factions. Like we didn't go fully to Vanguard and also Freestar Rangers. I'll talk real quick about Rangers. I thought that quest line was awesome. That's clearly my favorite. I like the whole twist of like basic. I forget his name. I call him Mayor McDoe from Fallout 4. I'm just like, yeah, it's the
Talking about
Mayor
Ron?
McDoe from Fallout. Yeah, Ron. That's it.
Yeah.
But the whole twist of like his corporation kind of being behind the whole thing, and like space cowboy going from city to city. One of my favorite parts of that whole quest line was going to Neon and like meeting the guy there. And we'll talk more about Neon later on when we get into towns. But like kind of the Freestar Ranger there was kind of like, hey, the people here they don't really care for us like law enforcement and anything like that. Just keep your head down, like stop trouble when it needs to be, but don't try to act like a hero. And I thought that was like a really interesting depiction of like kind of how would a ranger operate in a town like Neon and everything in that regard. Like that quest line was definitely one of the highlights for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean the Rangers, just by the fact that I like the other two more, is a number three, but I liked all of them a lot. And I definitely agree. I liked the plot twist. I liked the kind of like side plot with like the first I forgot, I just remember them as the first, but like that group that was like leftovers from the war, that were like holding
Oh
on,
yeah,
to like their valor or whatever. Like I really did like that. My problem with the Freestar quest line is you either kill him or you kill Ron, or you have to like basically let him lie about everything and he gets away scot-free. And it's like, why is there not a third option
another
here? Like going back to the
another
binary.
binary choice. Yeah.
Yeah, like going back to the binariness, that one I felt it the most, because it's like, oh, I want to arrest you. He's like, actually, you're gonna have to kill me. It's like, no, I think I can be able to arrest you. I literally have a stun gun in my inventory that can incapacitate you. So this is officially bullshit. So yeah, that
Mhm.
that really bothered me.
And then overall, it was a good quest line. It was the first one I did, but I don't really have much thoughts on it. I do think the idea of the choice between like, oh, use this thing or that thing what was it? The Genophobe. Mass Effect's in my brain of the Genophobe from that game. The two options of like how to deal with the big threat
Yeah, the
is
animal
interesting.
or the like aerosol spray or whatever, the
Yeah,
bacteria.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is that like it's not. It doesn't come into effect until 100 years. So like you don't know if it works or not until the very very end of the game. And I'm pretty sure both options work perfectly fine. So it's not like this, oh man, tough decision. It's again another binary choice. But I will say, going to what was it, New London? I think it was called.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Londinian, I think.
Londinian. Yeah, I thought that whole area was awesome.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like that. I really, like I said earlier, that that like mech field, like where you have to go like talk to that mechanic or whatever and find the robot. Like that whole area where it looked like a a mech wasteland. That was really cool. I really like that. I also like the twist with the girl's father who ended up like they faked his death or whatever.
Mhm.
And then all the stuff with like the or I think they're called xenomorphs, right? Like the alien,
No,
like the
I called them.
that's a that's another
that is
movie.
alien. Yeah, you're right. Well, you know what I'm talking about, the
You've seen them.
aliens.
Terramorph.
Terramorphs, that's right. That was close. Yeah, and then like how they form actually, and like all this stuff. Like I did like that. I just, yeah, the ending of that one was easily the flattest for me. I was like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. That's it for quest lines, like faction quest lines and whatnot. Unless you guys have like any side quests like that you were really into that you want to talk about specifically.
Not really. I already mentioned the one with like you getting the spaceship. That's like the best in the game.
The Mantis.
Uh, I mean
No,
that's
the
no.
one
The
with
design is cool though, like the Batman Easter egg, but that wasn't the one I was referring to.
the
I
Strauss
did like that
Eklund one
quest
where you
though.
design your ship. Yeah.
Oh,
Always appreciate a Batman Easter egg in games.
for sure. There was one which was the one where you go into that planet and it's like a resort, and then there's like the ships that came from Earth that were traveling for like over 100 years or so.
The
Like I thought,
Paradiso.
yeah, Paradiso. I thought like the vibe of that quest line, the like intrigue of like kind of like this, oh, these people traveled for so long because like they knew Earth was on the decline and all that. Like I thought that was such an interesting idea, but again, it's a binary choice at the end of the day. The idea is like, why can't I just like kill the guys at Paradiso? Like, bro, be full evil. Like, yeah, fuck these guys, these rich dudes. Like, I'm just gonna kill them and then let them land on Paradiso and like take it over, like something like that. And what happens is that it's an essential NPC, and it's one of those things where it's like, I just can't do anything because of the essential NPCs. No one is allowed to die in this game if Bethesda doesn't let me to. It feels so, again, binary.
Yeah. I honestly I'm having a hard time racking my brain around like the side quests. Like I know there are some, I just can't like think of them off the top of my head, but that also just kind of goes to show how much of a bummer I think outside of the faction and the main quest there isn't. Like I know there's still some. Oh, actually no, I take that back. The Titan, the moon on Jupiter in the Sol system. I don't know if you guys did this quest where it's like the scientist there is sick of the Taurus and wants you to like scare him away so she can actually do like research or whatever, and literally gives you like the fakest looking like mascot like of a terramorph, or not even a terramorph. I think it was like something like the little grubby looking one, and like you literally run around and scare Taurus. It was hilarious. So I definitely really like
Ah,
that one. I just
so
really wish they had more memorable ones. Unfortunately.
it's kind of what you were saying, like kind of at the very top of it, where you searched up where the good side quests are, and it's like you don't really come across these side quests organically. It feel, or at least in a ways that feel organic. It almost feels like you're kind of like looking for them like online. Is like, what are the good quests? I didn't even know about the Mantis. I never did the Mantis quest line and all that. It is one of those things where it feels like I would have liked a bit more, because I think about like one of my favorite moments in Skyrim is walking outside of Falkreath for the first time, and a talking dog just walks up to me and starts talking to me, and it leads to the whole Daedric quest line. And like at the end of the day, the whole quest line isn't that special. It's very much like, okay, go kill cultists and then go kill cultists in another area. But happening across that quest line in a way that felt so organic, where I'm just walking, minding my own business, and then just a talking dog starts having this whole ass conversation with me. I wanted more situations like that instead of just walking into a town and it's like, okay, I got to find someone to talk to get a quest line.
I definitely disagree. I think you overhear a lot. That's how I got all my quests. Was I was always overhearing something when I was walking around. But the thing is, if you sprint too fast, you might not pick it up. So that's probably, I would imagine, the issue you ran into.
You're telling me it's a skill issue?
I actually kind of am, because it is very
Yeah.
hard to sometimes to not pick up these quests.
Well, and I picked them up, but again, it's like overhearing. It's like just something added to my quest log. It's like I don't care about that. Like,
Sure, right.
again, I wanted more organic situations like the talking dog. But I want to move on into the towns and cities. Um, Bob, you were like really disappointed with Neon. I want you to kind of like get expanded thoughts. Like, what about Neon specifically? That whole city disappointed you?
Sure. Yeah, I think just to start off real quick, New Atlantis, I really did like. I thought it was really cool. The only thing there is, I just wish there was a little more. It's funny to say, because it's already, the attention to detail is so much better than like a Cyberpunk is. I just wish there was a little bit more with, like, there were 2 times the town got literally destroyed, and then you like fast travel and it's like, oh yeah, we're all fine again. It's like, okay, I disagree, but I don't know how construction works in the future, I guess. But I thought New Atlantis was good. I thought Aquila City, I get they were going for like an old school Western feel, and I totally think it's there, but it's like, you guys have been settled for like hundreds of years and we still have dirt, mud roads. Like, couldn't pave just a little bit. Like, I don't really understand that.
It's a
What was
cowboy
that?
town.
Yeah, but like,
they like it done there.
but like, you're still in the future. Like, is it
Builds
that hard?
character.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is the point? Like, I don't
They're
understand.
lazy. They don't want to do it. They like the rustic feel. They keep it that way.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
kind of
literally.
bothered. Like, you have a spaceport that's right next door with all of this asphalt, but heaven forbid you build a sidewalk. You know,
Like, it's
and
dirt on your boots builds character. That's really.
yeah, yeah, I guess. But anyways, we're going to Ryujin, because this is actually where, like, I had my issues. Like I said, it's interesting how, again, I'm going to bring up the 2 games I probably compared the most to tonight: Cyberpunk and Outer Worlds. When you
Friends of
walk
the
into when you walk into Neon, it kind of looks like the ship from Outer Worlds. Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like, it's like the hallway with all the neon lights and all the stores and stuff. I don't think they really pulled it off that well, in my opinion. Like, I thought Neon was going to be a little more dense than what it actually was. And a little bit more cyberpunky, and I think they kind of fell flat there. But really, where my annoyance is with, was it the Astra Lounge? Has Bethesda ever seen a
lamest club
nightclub
in the
before?
world.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
God.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of the what was this game rated T, right?
I think it is
Or,
rated
wait.
T.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
rated
it's
M.
definitely not M. It's definitely not M, so I
actually
think it's
it's
T.
M. Hang on, I could check real quick.
No, I don't think it
really?
is.
Or
I think
Starfield?
there's like, part of the reason that it's kind of PG is because it's T.
It's rated M. It's
Is it
rated M.
okay? All right. This is so
It's
stupid.
the-
Now I'm even more mad. Because it's like, I don't understand why this is the
How
most
the fuck
PG.
is it rated M?
Yeah, no, that makes no sense. This is the most PG rated, like, nightclub I've ever seen. It makes no sense. And you have so many pieces of fiction, both in movies and video games that have already come out, and just in like writing and like characters. It's like, what are we like? What is this nightclub? What are we doing here? Like they talk about the drugs, but you don't actually see anyone taking it. Everyone's like the music's fine, but like the dancers in the middle, like what is going on there? Like
They look so uncomfortable.
it just, God, it bothered me so much, and that like really just like, and then again you go to like Cyberpunk and you look at the clubs there. Granted, they're probably as dense as Starfield is, but like they actually look like places I would go to or would see in the
Oh, yeah.
future in a place like Neon. We're not talking about like I could see that nightclub in New Atlantis. I don't understand why it's in Neon. Like it should be way darker than that. So
That's
that's my
kinda
rant.
But I feel like
Go for it.
Neon did more nailed the image and feel of Cyberpunk more than Cyberpunk did.
Dude, I'm not even a Cyberpunk fan, and I disagree.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that's how
like,
I feel about it, man.
Neon felt like if your school had a Cyberpunk theme for the Halloween party.
That's one hell of a fucking school there. What the fuck?
Bro, I wish I went to a school like that. Are you kidding me? But like, my issue really just comes down to like, again, it just feels safe. It feels like there is that griminess. There is kind of like a lot of like shitty things about Neon, but like I feel like they could have gone so much harder. And again, it comes down to like the character models are so plasticky, and I have like no real caring about like any of the characters in this world and like how their struggles. It's like, yeah, okay, wax figure looking ass. But like really, it's just like it comes down to that rated M. I have to ask, how the fuck is this game rated M? I think back to one of my favorite parts about Fallout. Call me a psycho. I don't give a shit. I love bloody mess. That's one of my favorite perks in any game because it's like, yeah, you shoot someone in the head, their head just fucking explodes, and their eyeballs are there, their fucking brain and shit, intestines, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's what gaming is about. I like that violence. I like the gore. Like Gears of War, bro, that shit is fucking metal. Like it's like, yes, I like that. Skyrim, you can decapitate people. In this game, I got shot in the leg. Whatever. Like, yeah, sure, I'm dead because I get shot in the leg. It's like, again, it's like, Bob, I don't blame you for thinking it was rated T because this is like the most PG ass shooting game I've ever played, where it feels like nothing is really impactful in that regard in terms of like, the blood or the limbs coming off. No limbs come off. Everyone's fine and hunky dory. I don't know. And then again, that nightclub, that is like the most PG ass school dance nightclub I've ever seen.
Yeah. One thing I will add. I mean, hey, if any of the modders are listening to this, add some gore for the mods.
Yes, please. I mean, that's just gonna be the theme of this game. It's like, yo, mods for this game are gonna be crazy.
Remember when we saw the rating and was like, "Oh, there's jetpack sex? Hell yeah!" And then it's like the actual like sex scenes in the game are the most vague and like I mean, I'm not like I'm asking
Fallout
for it like
4,
Baldur's Gate 3, but it's like again, I totally thought this game was rated T.
It reminds me of Fallout 4, where like you just like rest in a bed next to your companion, and they just say, "Oof, you're crazy in bed." It's like, wait, did we do stuff? Like, I was just trying to sleep. But, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, it really, again, like you say, it feels PG, and it's like it's rated M. It's like, did the ESRB just like say rated M for the hell of it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Moving on. I guess, I mean, I could talk real quick about the other cities. New Atlantis was another one where it's like I I was so confused. That kind of like goes into another problem, which is just the amount of loading screens, the amount of times I had to like switch to different parts of New Atlantis. It felt less like a city and more like just a bunch of separated areas where I would just like, I can't find the vendors. And this really just comes down to like, where's the local map? Why isn't there a local map? Why is it just a big flat square with no way to see where you're going? It just feels like, again, a downgrade from Fallout 4, which again, how? Well, Fallout 4 kind of like I love that game, but like, there's a lot of parts about that game that shouldn't be downgrades. It's 8 years later.
Yeah, I think not having a local map definitely hurt this game.
Yeah.
And it's also just like crazy how you can scan a planet for its resources and then look at the map and see the resource map, but yet you can't scan a map for me when I actually land on a planet. Like, really?
Insane.
It's
Yeah.
it's definitely, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, I bring it up. Like, do you guys feel like the amount of load screens? That's a very big thing. This game, a lot of people called it a loading screen simulator, and I am inclined to agree. I just felt like I was just going from loading screen to loading screen, fast travel to fast travel, with without any real sense of the world feeling connected. Even when I'm just on a planet, it felt like there was like Neon. One of the big problems with that place is just the amount of loading screens to get from each part of Neon, and I don't know, it just really led to a disconnect for me from like feeling immersed in the world.
Yeah, the one positive thing I will say about this is that at least we're on the PS5, Xbox Series generation where they have
Yeah,
SSDs,
really.
so it's at least
If
bearable.
this was
But
on
like,
PS4, oh god.
Like on Sonic with 6 loading screens.
Yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment. I think between the loading screens and then yeah, the like not necessarily the fast travel, but like how they basically incentivize it
Yes,
instead
exactly.
of instead of actually like you could literally not play this game with the space combat based on how they let you travel, which I
Mhm.
understand like they want it to be more efficient, yet every time I dock I have to watch that stupid docking cutscene. I can't skip it.
God.
Like
yeah,
it's just very inconsistent in that regard. So yeah, I think the loading screens didn't bother me too much, but yeah, it was more like Neon is a good example. I think it also annoyed me. When you go to like Aquila or something, you have to go to that bar, and it's like, nope, actually, you can't just like. It's like the only place that like actually is a loading screen. It's like it's just like a couple stories. Like I don't understand why this is being so restrictive in that regard. So yeah, and then to just in general, like how you travel, like I have to force myself to not fast travel in the menus and actually do the right, like hit the right buttons to be like, no, launch me into space, then I'll choose it because that's how you get more of the space comma and the space interactions. Because if you fast travel, you skip all that. Hell, they don't
Yep.
even search for contraband every single time if you fast travel. So it's like, okay, this is really, I don't see how this, like this must have been like a restriction where it's like if we don't do this, everyone's gonna hate how slow this game is, kind of thing. And it's like, I guess if that's a sacrifice you need to make, but damn, does it suck.
Contraband as a system almost feels like an issue in and of itself, where it's like it, I thought it would be like a more interesting, like, oh, maybe they don't always find the contraband, or maybe there's other ways to hide it. But it's like, I don't know, you just need to get an upgrade for your ship to hide it, or go to a place that like lets you sell contraband without the ship scan, which is like one place in the whole world. And it's like, what do I get with the contraband? It's stuff that sells better. And it's like, that's it. Like, there's no real interesting like quest line or mechanics with the contraband. You just sell it for money that I don't need because I'm already rich.
Right.
I want to move on. Kind of, I want to ask real quick. Do you guys feel House Varun wasn't utilized enough in this game? Because I'll be honest, that was one thing that I was really frustrated with. Was just you have Andreja and her whole situation with House Varun. You never go to House Varun planet, and it's like the most obvious DLC tease I have ever seen in my life. It's like, okay, you could have made it a bit less obvious and give us more on like this major faction in the universe.
I didn't care about it much.
I think it was very much another show don't tell situation. They talked a lot about it, and we didn't see really much of any of it, and that's very annoying.
yeah, it's a lot of just like, oh, really cool stuff. May I see it? Nope.
I do thing I really wanted to get on is this dialogue and persuasion minigame. First of all, I want to talk about the dialogue. What happens when you get into a dialogue zooms in directly on the character. And again, it is a downstep from Fallout 4 and a downstep from fucking Skyrim. Nobody liked the Oblivion zoom in. I remember they were like, yup. Like, people were like, yo, it's just like Oblivion. Back to Oblivion. Guys, that was 2006. Like, what are we getting hyped about? Like, why is it zooming in on these faces? Like, why can't we get the cinematic camera angles? I'm not asking for Baldur's Gate 3 level, but at the very least, Fallout 4, the game that came out 8 years ago, I don't know. It's just a weird thing that it's like another, like, why is it like this?
I liked it.
Yeah, I,
As
I,
soon
I
as you
found
figured out. Oh, you go.
no, I was just quickly gonna say I had some glitches when they zoomed into the faces. Sometimes you could only see like the eyes or like just the full face. In like their facial features just popping out.
I enjoyed it. As soon as you figured out what the personality of the person you were trying to persuade was, everything kind of just fit into place for me. Because the game does pick up on the character's like personality type, and if you start playing on that, you'll be able to get it to win every single time.
Yeah, I did like the persuasion minigame
Oh
overall.
man, I hated that.
My only issue. I mean, it's not the best one I've seen, but like I thought it was good and it was dynamic. And if you ever save scummed it, you would realize sometimes the same answers wouldn't always work. Like it really felt
Yeah.
like an RPG in that regard, where it's like
I-
they're kind of skill checking you every single time. So
Yeah.
I really did
I-
appreciate that. Except now, that being said, the one place I didn't like it was once you do the Ryujin quest and you have the manipulation tool or you unlock it like through the skill tree, it makes all of it busted because it just almost it gives you 100% success rate every time.
I really hated that minigame. I just think it doesn't feel like you're actually like trying to progress through these characters like things. But like you're not I disagree with the notion that like it feels like you're playing off the character's personality to try to like convince them of something. I didn't see that. To me, it was just like kind of like randomly picking, and like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it just to me, I'm like, I would rather just have a skill check. I would rather like in Fallout New Vegas, it's like your explosives aren't high enough, so the person is gonna say you're, or even at the very least, kind of like Fallout 3, where it's like a percentage where yeah, you have like a 30% chance of like actually convincing them of this thing instead of just like stuff like, oh yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, you're right, we are getting somewhere. Yeah, isn't it cool that we do this? Yeah, you're right, it is cool. You know what? Yeah, I give you the doesn't make sense. Like, why does it work like that? I just think it's such a like archaic system that didn't really need to be there. I would have rather just had a skill check.
But
Yeah.
that's what
Just
the color's for. Like the color is literally your percentage chance
As,
of like
yeah, but I would have
succeeding.
rather just have that 1% chance versus like multiple over them that also I could kind of just like cheese, like you said, with the manipulation. And also most of the time it just didn't matter.
I mean, you could save scum
yeah.
like a dialogue option like in the other games too. So
I guess
That's exactly what I did.
I guess I
I'm sorry.
just I would have rather just had the skill check. I would have rather just had like the idea of like, hey, you need this amount of speech to be able to like do this, or this amount of explosive skill to convince them to do this, stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of this way of RPG handling, where it very much is RNG. Moving on though, I want to talk about kind of like the soundtrack, which is something that a lot of people are very mixed on. I say a lot of people loving it. I think it's mostly positive sentiments, some negative. I'll say this: I personally love the soundtrack, but I also think this is probably the weakest Bethesda Game Studios one. I much preferred Skyrim and Fallout Force.
I think it has the Breath of the Wild effect with it,
Yeah, that's
where
There
It
it is. Yeah,
is-
that's why it's like.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
good, but you don't like either A, hear it enough, or I do think you're right though, that it is not as iconic necessarily as like a Fallout or Skyrim. What's crazy to me is there are some songs, like obviously the opening, like the actual Constellation like theme is great, and the end song is incredible. But there and
yeah.
and I think like the end of the Crimson Fleet had a really good one when you're doing the space battle. And there's another good one when you're like in the temples. But like for the most part, I mean, you're definitely right. I don't think there was enough iconic music. It felt way more like atmospheric music. And every once in a while you'd get a good good soundtrack. But I still really liked it. I don't think it'll be like score of the year or anything.
Oh, I mean that one belongs to Alan Wake too. That. Whoa.
Listen, I like it. I mean, this is just we're gonna
Tangent
get off
over
in a
here.
tangent, but yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I think the music was fine. Like it didn't leave a lasting impact or anything. It
Exactly.
was good for what it was. Yeah, but I think I'm curious about what they'll play if it gets nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
No, I'll tell you now that it won't. I'm kidding. It's gonna be like they played the main theme, and I was kind of like, man, would have rather this not be.
Yeah, I mean, and it is still a good main theme. I do love that main theme.
Yeah,
but-
it's just not, when you're at the Game Awards, you want something like Metroid theme, like something crazy like that. I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get
again,
it.
tangent.
The end one is a little bit more hype. They could do that one.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to move on, kind of like into a more like meta discussion about the game. Actually, before we move on, there is one more thing. I really hate this game's UI. It is so needlessly confusing, in my opinion, especially when we go into the solar system map and I'm trying to switch to the system. They do this 3D thing where I'm like, okay, I want to go to this system, but I don't remember which system New Atlantis is. So I'm like, okay, I got to check this one. I'll zoom in, and then I press circle, and it takes me completely out. And it's like, okay, well, let me actually try to like go back in. It just like messes up the whole thing. I don't know. Did you guys have struggles with the UI and also inventory management, which is a whole nother thing where I thought that was also awful? And I feel like, again, a step down from Fallout 4, where I feel like Fallout 4 just had a very clean, simple UI with its menus.
Yeah, the UI's bad. It's definitely in the menus. It's very confusing. I didn't, like you kind of been saying throughout the show. There are a lot of things I didn't realize I could do until super late into the game. One of them being like you could actually transfer things to your ship if you're within like 250 meters of it, which would have been great to know, like in certain situations, or like giving. There was like a whole UI for like your companions' inventory, so you could give them like guns and clothes and like change up their outfits and stuff. Didn't know that until late game. I found it really frustrating trying to figure out which weapon would be good for me because there's no DPS; it's just damage. For like one shot. So it's like I sort by damage, and it's like, oh, the shotgun's the best gun. And I'm like, okay, like, but what about a full clip of it, like compared to the hand cannon pistol or the like assault rifle? It's like, oh no, your assault rifle only has 3 damage. It's like, yes, but I have 30 rounds of it that I'm shooting in like 2 seconds. Like, can we please, like, I should not have to do the math on this. So, yeah, that was really annoying. I think also too, the scanner UI was also equally annoying because sometimes I would have to switch back and forth if I wanted to interact with stuff. And it's like I shouldn't have to like do some of that, and like the range of it kind of felt also like equally annoying. So yeah, I definitely had a lot of problems with it, and it felt like self-inflicting wounds. And then as far as like inventory management, it was, yeah, equally annoying that it felt like you didn't have a lot, or you could like be encumbered very quickly, and there wasn't really, honestly, like there wasn't really a lot of reasons to be encumbered either. Like now thinking back on it, it's like I was trying to stock resources. It's like why, like why was I doing that?
Yep.
So yeah, definitely a huge flaw in the game.
Did any of you guys fan, by the way? Because that was like kind of a big thing, but
Oh,
like I was
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like
I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I skipped on that.
I did because it was like one of my traits or whatever in the beginning, and
Uh-huh.
then I realized, and then I didn't like his voice, so I rejected him when he came up.
So yeah, you know what? Actually, you sound like a bitch. Get out of here. I want to get more into like kind of like meta questions about the game as a whole. Do you guys have any more specific thoughts about like things you want to really bring up before we get into like kind of the meta overall like thoughts on like the game as it stacks up as a game? All right, that's a resounding no.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a minute. I guess while you're thinking of that,
Sandwiches.
yeah, that's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up, like that physics engine. I will say that's one thing I found very impressive about the game. The physics engine, the way that objects move is very impressive, and I do think like Bethesda's kind of obsession with the details very much showed off in this game. But I'm also like, it could have. Did you need that? You could have worked on like making other systems better instead of like really focusing in on this. It's like kind of that leads them a little bit astray, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I did just want to kind of like reemphasize. I think the art direction of this game was really, really good.
For sure.
Just with like the NASA punk theme and everything, I really did think they nailed that element of it, and I do want to give them again kudos. It's like this game runs really well, and I think we're all expecting a super buggy. Like, is it crazy to say that Spider-Man 2 was more buggy than Starfield at launch? Because that
Don't you dare say that. Nope, no. That
Okay.
is not true.
Because I didn't have. I think I had one, maybe two bugs I could think about in
Okay.
Starfield.
So here's the thing. I had like slight visual bugs. I had some crashes on Spot. In Starfield, a whole ass quest line I couldn't complete because of a bug. So I do think the game shipped pretty well, like without much bugs. But don't you dare on my Spider-Man.
I'm just
Got
in
this
my
right
experience,
mistake.
I think that would
had
be
no
true.
issue.
But
I am
Yeah.
a Sony pony, man. I had to incite that for a second. He brought out something.
but I do think this game actually launched way better than I think a lot of people were expecting it to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I guess
It was gonna be a buggy mess. I was gonna collapse on itself.
for sure. My issues with the game are much more internal outside of even the bugs. I do think
For sure.
that there is bugs. It's not like the game was like perfect or anything. Like I said, a whole ass quest line I just could not do. But it overall, like I think it comes down to like one of the questions. Did the game launch well? And I think we all agree, like yeah, it had a good launch. I will add, like we talked a lot about the other Bethesda games. How does this game rank in comparison to the other Bethesda games? I know, Jack, you haven't played them, and you're not that big of a Bethesda fan, I don't think, right? You're more of the Obsidian
No.
guy.
Yep.
However.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Dirk. I want to actually.
Oh, you want? Oh, yeah. I put it pretty high. Like the way that I see this, right? Because I don't like a lot of people saying, "Oh, the game is good until you compare it to something," or like, "Oh, it's not as good as this or that." I see it as its own thing. I see it as Bethesda's made like a new little bubble, and that's gonna be like their own thing. So like with Elder Scrolls, they have their own stuff with Elder Scrolls that works for that. They have their own stuff with Fallout. I feel like this is the same way, and they're still learning how to handle this. So when you just look at it for what it is, at least for me, I think it stands pretty high.
Would you say you like it more than Fallout 4?
Okay, so here's the thing. I like Fallout 4 more than Fallout 3. So
Whoa,
I'm
whoa,
very
wait, wait, wait,
positive
wait,
about
wait, wait,
Fallout
wait,
4.
wait, 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 wait. Okay, that's the controversial take of the episode there, rather than a lot of
Like,
others.
I'm very high on Fallout 4. I'll put it. If I had to rank like the top 3, okay, let's do the top 3 to make it simple. It'd probably be Skyrim,
Good man.
New Vegas. Top 4,
Good
I
man.
guess. Skyrim, New Vegas, Fallout 4, then Starfield, and then everything else below.
Oof. So for me, this has been my rankings. I think Starfield is probably the weakest of Bethesda game of like the modern era. Now, granted, I have not played Oblivion.
It's rough.
I will say Starfield's better than that because I don't think Oblivion's aged well.
Okay, so a little detail about Oblivion. Not to get too much into a side tangent. They had what, like, I think it's like 1 or 2 guys working the dungeon. There is like
Oh, yeah, you
2
could tell.
dungeon designs, and they are copied throughout the entire thing.
It was one guy who
You-
made all the dungeons.
Yeah, he made like 2 or 3 designs, and that's all you will find in that game. And that
Shout
game
out to that guy.
aged horribly, but yeah.
I think that game has a lot of great ideas, a lot of cool aspects to it, but I don't think it's aged too well. So I don't really want to count it. I kind of want to go from like Fallout 3 onwards, and I'd say I like Fallout 3 more. I like New Vegas more. I like Skyrim a hell of a lot more. I like Fallout 4 more. I haven't played 76, so hey, you know what? There's your bench line right there. I don't know, but maybe I play 76 and that one's mind blowing experience. I kind of doubt it. But yeah, I don't
This
know.
game sucks, but when you start getting into like the expansion where they added onto stuff, then it gets slightly better, but it is the worst Fallout.
I think going off of that, I think what's interesting with this game is that the ideas are there. They just didn't nail the execution, and I feel like with mods and with expansions, this could there's still time for them to save face with the game. Now, obviously, that just sucks as a general point because it's like it should be good at launch. And I'm not trying to dismiss that or excuse that because it absolutely should be, and it's still kind of disappointing. But at least like they did, the idea they were going for was really, really good. They just didn't like exactly hit the landing, and there's still time for that to happen.
If the DLC, I mean, if there's one thing I gotta give Bethesda, they are masters of DLC. Dragonborn is still like one of the greatest DLCs of all time. I hope they nail this one. I think my viewpoint, and I guess we could talk about that real quick, kind of what our expectations are for this DLC. We talked a little bit about it, like of House of Varun. I think we all expect that kind of the idea of like the founder of Constellation, maybe finding him out in the world. But like any other ideas of like where we could go off of that DLC train.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, but with some vehicles would be nice.
For the
to
love of God,
explore.
please.
Yeah.
I would like to see more from the ship manufacturers. Like, I feel like there could be something there.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think we kind of saw it a little bit with the Vanguard, or not the Freestar Collective line, and then a tiny, tiny bit with Walter's kind of side quests. But I guess just because I don't really have a good answer, I think it's just going to be something like we don't really know about, and they kind of teased, and like you had to really be paying attention. But yeah, I think that just off the top of my head, that'd be cool.
Shattered Space is the name of one of them, right?
Yes, the only one we know of.
That is like the most like baseline name. It's like, what does that mean?
I mean,
like,
it could be. It
Could
could.
be multiversal dimension nonsense.
They could be
it that.
referencing like the wars and stuff, which I'm hoping.
I really hope so. Yeah.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
I do. Bob, you said you went back and watched our Starfield meal prep. I guess that kind of like goes into a question I wanted to ask here. Do we feel that Starfield Direct, one of the most hyped up presentations, everyone loved it. do we think it set appropriate expectations? Do you think there was anything they were being kind of coy about, like outright lying? I don't think they lied about anything, but like anything in that direct that felt almost misleading in a way.
Yeah, you know, I think they did set appropriate expectations, just based off of me literally rewatching it, before this podcast, just to see what we were kind of thinking about it. I do think they did set appropriate expectations and weren't really hiding anything. However, I think the one thing they really hid was a procedural generation and like
Yep.
the planet exploration. I think they totally they did a good job on kind of showing the diversity, and when in reality I think there was a lot more not there than what was there. So but overall though, no, I think they still set good expectations with the story. They set good expectations with companions, with the shipbuilding, with kind of your story and the weapons and the crafting and the outposts. But again, I just don't think they necessarily executed, and that's not necessarily their fault. At least for the direct. Like, I just think we were expecting a little bit more than what they actually showed.
I know Microsoft is probably very happy with the performance of this game. This is kind of around, like, it apparently exceeded their expectations. So I doubt like it's going to be a situation where like it was a disappointment industry wide. I think it just comes like a lot of people were disappointed, like me. A lot of people had their expectations matched and are very happy with the game. It really just comes down to like almost like what your expectations of the game were. I was just expecting classic Bethesda game, and I didn't really get that here. And maybe that is on me. Maybe I can blame Todd Howard for all my issues again. But I think it's about time we start wrapping it up. I mean, before we get into like our final thoughts, our final statements, I do want to ask, like, is there anything you guys want to bring up specific fast before we kind of end this off?
Oh yeah. Just one quick thing. Did you guys also pick up because of course there was random loot just around the game. Did you also pick up those sandwiches that were just randomly there in space? Like, oh, they a
About
lot.
these
Okay,
sandwiches.
you guys keep talking about the sandwich. I did not find a single sandwich in the game. I'm sorry, like you guys are making this like these sandwiches forever. I didn't see them anywhere.
I saw,
How are you guys
I saw
finding
like
these sandwiches? I didn't see any.
Yeah,
I saw them, but I think overall, I think the funny thing about food was I don't think I used anything other than the basic health pack or whatever would cure my like status affection. Like I never used food
100%.
at all.
oh, same. Like,
Because it's so. Go ahead, Jet. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say the food usually does jack shit. Like the med kits are what actually heal you.
It's literally like all you needed to do was add like a 0 or a 1 at the end, like at the top of these things. Like instead of restoring 5 health, restore 15 health. Restore 30 health instead of restoring 10 health. Restore 100 health. I don't know, because it's so useless. Like I don't need to eat food because it restores such a tiny value of my health versus just using a med pack. But yeah, I think we are about tired out talking about Starfield. I think it's time we get into our final thoughts. And I guess I'll ask also if you want to assign a score on the game. Dark, you're the most positive on the game. I want to hear you first.
But the way that I do scores, I don't agree with number ratings. I normally do like buy, wait for
my
sale,
bad.
or it's just I feel like that's a better system in my opinion.
True
So I feel like
YouTuber.
that too. But in my opinion, I think it's part of Game Pass. This Game Pass and play. You don't have to buy the game. There you go. If you don't have Game Pass for whatever reason, and you're not looking forward to get it, wait for a sale. Because I feel like unless you know exactly what you want, this game is very divisive for people. It's probably best if you wait for a sale. If you have Game Pass, let's go for it and have fun.
I guess also just like your overall thoughts on the game as well, like kind of how you feel on it as an experience.
Well, I thought I had a great time with it. Like I said, I went into it with the mindset that this is very much his own thing. I didn't really compare it to anything else. and I had a fun time with it.
Bob, what about you?
Yeah, kind of just like I said at the top, I like this game more for personal reasons than I do objective reasons, I guess I'll say. So, we've talked a lot about the flaws and a lot about the disappointments, but there's just something I will always love about an exploration game, even given the many faults this game has in that regard, and B, a space kind of was it gritty sci-fi, I think is the theme. I know they talk about NASA punk in Starfield, but that kind of gritty sci-fi element I love so much, and I really did enjoy the 70 hours I put into this game. I'm taking a break for now just because this gaming year has been so busy, but I definitely plan on going back and doing the new game pluses and coming back for the expansions, checking in to see if there's any cool mods that I could try. And that all being said, it's funny. I always, every time I'm on here and I have to give a game a score, I always say, well, I don't believe in half points because I'm not a coward. But this really would be the time I would use it because I really do think this is probably an 8.5 out of 10. But I'm still not a coward, and I actually do think I'd have to put this at an 8.
Uh,
It's
classic.
unfortunate the downsides, but that's also right now. I think if they can just tighten things up a little bit in future updates, it could absolutely go to a 9 and maybe even a 10. But for now, I think it's an 8. And even saying all of that, it's still my number 2 game of the year personally.
Yeah,
Right behind Zelda.
I was about to point that out because I swear, like it's like we're agreeing, like, yeah, well, if you're 100% right, which always makes me feel good, you know. It's like you're right there, yeah, you're right there. This is my second favorite game. It's like, where
Yep.
did you come from?
Yep.
It's like, hey, I respect it. I respect it. Jet, what about you?
oh yeah, so my thoughts on the game overall, I still really enjoyed the game despite its flaws. And Dark did mention that yeah, it's on Game Pass, so that does kind of um put less damage on the wallet, even though I bought the DLC for it just to play a little early. And yeah, it was a fun time. I enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed the persuasion mini games, but like we all said, the space traverse was a bit annoying. And if I were to give this a letter grade, I think I'm the same as Bob, 8 out of 10. A solid A minus, and hopefully can improve to an A or A plus with the DLC and just with some updates that would make quality of life improvements.
It's funny because I where you guys were at an 8 out of 10 when I first beat the game because I kind of shifted the way I played it. I played it more like a Mass Effect, going from questline to questline, and enjoyed it there. But the more I go away from this game, the more negative I am, the more flaws I have, the more issues in general I have with this game. And again, I say, like, this was my most anticipated game this year. This was the game I bought an Xbox for. And like Xbox purchase, I play a lot of good Game Pass games, Halo baby. But at the end of the day, I'm just sitting here. I think this is overall in my lifetime the most disappointing game I've ever played. It did not meet
Wow.
any of my expectations the way I wanted it to. In ways, my hype level versus my overall feelings on the game are drastically different. And I just think that this game, while the shooting is fun, it wasn't enough to fix the game for me from an RPG standpoint. I don't think it's a very good RPG. I don't think it's a very good exploration game. I don't really think it does much good than like some pretty cool quest lines and the combat being fun. But even those aren't enough for me to say this is just kind of an outright fine experience. I but I wouldn't outright call it like a 4 out of 10. I would say here, if I had to say, this is a 6 out of 10 game for me. And it's hard. Like in my mind, it's a 4 because I just do not like this game. But even then, I can't really say that full heartedly because I don't think it's up surface. Objectively speaking, like I think there is enough quality there to prevent it from that 4 out of 10. But I look back at that IGN score and how much people gave it shit for a 7. I'm like, man, Dan Stapleton was nice to the game. So I don't know. I sit here, I'm like a 6 out of 10. I really hope Elder Scrolls 6 is good, and I really, really hope they just stop with the procedural generation. Please, just don't make this your thing now. But I think that's pretty much everything in regards to Starfield. We had a lot of thoughts, a lot of discussion. Very long food coma today. Obviously, we had a lot to say. It's a very big game, a lot of different aspects that we wanted to tackle, and I'm very happy that we kind of all came into our different agreements. Definitely differing viewpoints, but at the end of the day, that's what makes these spoiler casts fun. And I hope you all enjoyed watching. Please check us out, our main podcast, the Slice of Gaming podcast, as well as Slice of Anime. We're going to be trying to do a lot more food comas like this in the future. We have a lot of games planned. We'll tell you right now, Spider-Man 2 is hopefully going to be the next one. I'm excited as hell to talk about that game story. But, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Audible. Like the podcast. It really helps us out a lot. Check us out on Twitter. And I think that's it. Say goodbye, everybody.
Guys.
All right, bye. Into the Starfield.
Into the Starfield.